Hello. This is working?
I see that this is a mute party.
Yeah, you broke it.
Cool, good. So, like, I guess you're starting soon or whatever?
Yeah, I just saw Keels go online, so she's probably just settling a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Alright.
You guys excited for round 2?
I suppose.
That's not very enthusiastic. I think I need to hear more enthusiasm in that.
You can't make me be enthusiastic, my dude. It's just how it works.
Okay, understandable.
Understandable. So, like, you're waiting for Keels, right?
Yeah, I'll message her, see what's the story.
Okay.
In the meantime, I will start sharing my screen and fix the backend logistics so we can get started. That's going. So let's see. I think it's this one.
So, are we going over the stream that Mina just did, or is it like a different? Okay, so this is like the same VOD. It looks like, no?
Yeah, it's the same VOD, but I'm starting at the game after that. I don't know if Mina wants me to cover the game she was doing the past 4 hours. I don't think if she.
I mean, you would just have to ask her, really.
I think it comes down to if you feel comfortable with me doing that or not. Because I don't know if you were playing with a mindset that I might analyze it later, then you might have reacted a little differently. So I will leave it up to you if that is something you want to do, and we can go from there.
Are you talking to me or Mina?
Mina.
Okay.
I don't know if Mina heard that too. Also, Mina, I would say for the VOD stream, restart your stream real quick. That way, if that's the case, we can have a fresh like VOD to go through.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see if that's actually. Well, let me ask this: do you actually want me to review something you did today, like a game you did, or do you prefer to just stick it to the Polaris rotation? There's ups and downsides, obviously, to it. Okay, that's fine. Then I will leave out this session.
Nick's mic isn't working. Am I reading that right?
Uh-oh.
What's going on, Nick? Echo? Oh, what do you mean by echo, Keels?
Try restarting your Discord if your mic is having issues. Usually that can solve most of the issues. Quick restart doesn't hurt.
Interesting. I don't hear anyone else echoing Keels, so I'm not sure what that's about.
Try restarting your Discord too, Keels, if something is not working as intended as well.
Let me look in my settings, see if I can find anything. There's an option in voice and video that says echo cancellation. I'm not sure if that's for you or for other people, but you can try that as well.
So you guys planned to start at the hour, right? Or was it like a bit later?
Well, we plan to start the hour, but then
Okay.
I'm assuming people are either farming or something came up, so we're pretty much delayed.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if the stream could hear me, or it's probably configure something else.
Well, I can hear you now, so
Yeah, but
I can hear me
unsure
now.
about the stream. I'm not sure if anyone's responding to the thing. Sorry. Oop.
when you say thing, what do you mean by?
Very quiet on stream? Ugh. Very quiet? I'm not sure how to raise it up. I'll try to raise it up. Ugh.
Doing another lecture session?
Hmm.
That was quick.
Well, we finished our like nines run while trying to get a lot of seeking. I think we got about 5 seeking total, so that's actually kind of lucky considering in 4 hours.
So you got 200 egg is what you're telling me.
Sadly, no. We got a lot of
Unfortunately.
we got a lot of normal tide. Oh, too loud? I'll try to adjust them.
More like boring tide, am I right?
We
Har.
I believe on our normal tides we got like 140s, but then like 2 or 3 50s. So it's not bad at all for normal tide seeking.
Rippy pippy. Someone in your chat is saying our mic balance is not good, so you might have to adjust our volume a little.
Volume? Ugh.
I hear you guys fine on my end, but
I'm changing the desktop audio though. Like I can't hear like any feedback on the mic, but I'll try to adjust. I'm adjusting volume, so just kind of tell me which one needs to be like higher or lower.
Let me listen to it on stream and see what it sounds like, because I might be able to.
okay. Meanwhile, I still can't hear Mick or Keels. Are you guys still trying to troubleshoot something? The worst case is just do a
Keels is
hard.
mute right now, so maybe it's
I'd say the worst case is
muffled?
just restart your computer.
Is it like too low?
Fine for me now. I'm just on mute.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine too.
Hello.
Is it too
Hello,
low?
by the way.
I raised up the desktop audio a bit more. I'm actually kind of tired because we did like early shoal to test out the the strategy, we luckily got 2 normal tide seekings in like 2 to 3 hours during show, and that's lucky in my opinion, because sometimes you could just farm, you could just submerge farm for like 3 whole hours and not get the one that you want on wave one. So whew.
Well, don't burn yourself out because even according to your stream, you've been live for 7 hours, and
Yeah.
that is quite a long time to be
Ugh.
constantly be playing the game, even in between. If you're not standing up and stretching or in between, it can
Yeah,
put a
that
toll
is
on you.
true. Hand's a
Just need
little
to
bit
manage your
more wary
Spots and Dusty
from.
sound muffled.
just need to balance your time a little bit better. If that's the case, just
I-
hopefully you're feeling okay, and we can try
I
to
think it's
do what we
just
gotta
more
do.
from the dynamo holding instead of the octobrush.
Well, at the end, regardless of what you do, just try to be careful with avoiding burnout in
So
general.
we sound good now? Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So we're basically just waiting on one troubleshooting technical difficulty error on our end, and then once that's settled, we can jump right in.
Yeah, it's just America now, I think, right now.
While calling out the player, unbelievable.
I'm not calling people
Oh,
out. I'm letting
Dusty,
people know what's
did
going
you finish
on.
the feedback form? Or no? Dusty?
Hi.
Did you finish the feedback form? Or no, not really.
No.
I thought you did it while you were, or maybe you were having fun. It's alright if you didn't finish it.
No, don't worry then. Just pretend it never happened.
Oh yeah, I think there was like sometimes there were like questions about what tourney was what I what we were doing, just like the first 4 hours. It's basically, instead of like a high score for like the entire shift, it's just high scores for only Goldie seeking. It's fun. It's basically there for fun, but it also encourages like trying your best to get as high as possible. So we kind of use that opportunity to go to review the seeking method again to see if we can improve, probably like finding the right gusher, or even just a regular roll.
I remember someone posted an alternate like sewer opening method that works for higher DPS comps that can clear lessers really well.
Yes.
I can kind of see that being a high risk and high reward thing, especially if you're pushing the score to what you need. Like my take on it would be if you're just grinding a specific shift, like one wave, just to try to get a very high score, then it's worth it. If you're looking for a long-term performance for like not wiping or causing things to go downhill, I would be more reserved. But it can really go both ways. Like at the end, you have to kind of come to an agreement with your group what you want to try and like know what strategy you're going to go. So that way there's no like weird miscommunication. And the other issue is this kind of stuff probably is almost not possible unless you're in call and you decide like on the spot when seeking wave rolls into your game. At the end, I haven't had a chance to experiment with the new method yet to see where the merits, like what the true merits are yet. I know like some people have attempted it on this rotation just because of the comp is very suitable for it. Why don't you, Mina, tell us about your experience with the new strategy?
This the new strategy. Let's see. You know how like in previous one people go for the farthest gusher from the basket, so the lessers will take a long while to find it. But obviously, kind of in overfishing, we want that one to be lesser, but it's kind of not a big concern if we want to, what is it? Search for that Goldie as soon as possible.
Also, Mina, just so you can try to explain it better, do you actually have that new method chart pulled up, and then you want to quickly switch your stream to show that diagram for people on stream to see?
Sure, I had to.
Yeah,
I had
'cause
to.
I just
I had
realized
to
I
boot
kind of
up
just left
my.
this.
I have to boot up my clip paint
Yeah, I
studio.
know this is kind of on the spot, but then I just realized if like I could like just be playing the clip of like an old wave of it just kind of playing in the background, and then just while people are settling, so they're not just kind of watching a blank screen. We could do that while you're pulling that up, I suppose. But I have to.
How
Yeah, go ahead.
willing would you guys be to like start without Mick? Because it seems to be taking him like quite a bit. Like I don't want to start without him either, but
Do you want me
like-
Well,
to?
let's do this. Can you watch or hear us at best?
I assume you're talking to Mick, right?
Mick,
Yeah.
do you want to do a text talk instead? I could display the Discord chat if you're okay with that. Unless you're going to like, no, I want a mic chat.
I'll message him.
I'll pull up the screen share temporarily. Is that all right? Hold on. Okay. Do you see my stream? I'm playing my screen live right now.
Yeah,
see
you
it
can just
this-
stop sharing my screen and just go to your screen. If
Oh,
that's the case.
I
You can
could
just,
do-
you can just
I
take
could
total
do
control. You
both.
don't have to
Don't
like
worry.
go through the hooks like that way. And just go back to my screen share after.
No, I could do both. Hold on.
Because I don't even
Yeah.
know how that works. Like if I suddenly I don't think that's going to work really unless I capture Discord, and I'm not capturing my Discord. There's some privacy concerns
I
there.
think Mick could just type to us and that'd be fine. Actually.
I want to make sure Mick is okay with that. I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah. We're
jump
still
forward,
like trying to hear back from him, see what he says. But he's like deafened right now, so
Yeah.
I'll type
Well,
down.
Yeah, we'll give him some time to try to figure it out.
Oh,
In the meantime, we'll talk about this new
Hey.
strategy that
It
kind
seems
of
like he's
surfaced.
hello, hello.
Hello,
Hello,
Wake
Mick.
up.
you did it.
Well, wake up
You did
now.
it, dude.
How'd you do it? What's the
Welcome.
magic? What's the secret?
It's really dumb, but I just took a different USB port. That's it.
Hey, sometimes that
tried,
does the trick.
I've tried everything, and this was the only thing that worked. That's so
Well,
stupid.
Nicely done.
I gotta say, tech issues is not pleasant to deal with. They do crop up even to the best of us, so don't feel bad at
Yeah.
all. Like I have gotten tech issues even during job interviews. Like 10 minutes before job interviews, I run into tech issues immediately. I'm just like, you get like a heart attack. And it's just like, oh no, I want this to work. But at the same time, it kind of
I-
tests.
I should
It's like a way for them to
tried
test
before.
your like troubleshooting skills, I guess, on the spot. But that's the weird thing. It's like they don't even really talk about that.
Yeah, but I didn't change anything, so it should have worked. So compared to first day,
Yeah, I don't know.
weird.
The hardware stuff is not my area of expertise, unfortunately, but it's just something we learn to manage to put up with for the. It's just something that we kind of end up trying to put up with.
I
Also,
guess
if that's
it's
the
fair.
case,
Oh,
if
okay, Dusty. Here's the normal tide.
okay, so
This
I'm assuming the new strategy involves.
I highlighted the ones that we're opening, the ones in orange. Unless you want me to highlight it a different color.
Well, this is the thing. I don't even know what this next big strategy is because I have to kind of play around with it first before I can really give a full feedback, like how I feel about it. And I can tell you right now, actually, before I even learned the sewer strat, I used to actually open this sewer first, ironically, just from personal experience. The issue with that one, I found out, is if you get either of the 3 sewers on the right, you are probably royally going to get screwed. So that's why I stopped doing that. But then someone brought up the idea to try it again because of a high DPS comp, and I can kind of see the merit of that, especially now that you have Dynamo, you can quickly murder. I guess this is something I want to I guess I'll touch base on this too, because this may interest people, especially for freelancers where they just kind of open all the sewers and how you're going to manage them. There's also something that's good to know for squads as well, so I'll touch base on it real quick. Let's say you're like, things don't always 100% go to plan, right? Like it happens. Like someone just accidentally uses a blaster and opens the wrong sewer. This is something you probably don't notice, but in my opinion, if a wrong sewer gets opened, drop whatever you're doing. Like don't even try to get any more golden eggs, and just try to locate the Goldie as fast as possible. After that way, once you find it and you either kill the Goldie or let it like route its way to the next sewer, then the sewer that you misopened will close faster. So that makes sense too. So if a mistake like that happens, I would usually like even stop what I'm doing, unless I'm just really close to the basket and I'm like going along the way. I would just try to look for the next sewer as fast as possible.
Are you talking about when you're trying to find the Goldie, or when the Goldie is found?
When you're trying to find a Goldie, I'll give you a scenario. I think that'll be easier. Let's say you found the Goldie, right, and you killed it.
Yes.
Now, obviously, while you killed it, and there's a whole bunch of golden eggs lying around, then you suddenly snatchers show up, because that's what happens. And then someone with a blaster accidentally shoots the snatcher with, well, they didn't accidentally shoot it, they shot at it, but it accidentally opens the sewer right next to it. Let's say on that sewer picture on the left, right next to the basket. Correct? That's a pretty common one to occur if it does occur.
Right here?
Yeah, let's just use that as an example. But whatever sewer gets open regardless. Usually if that happens, the first thing I would do is I would just try to look for the next Goldie immediately. Because the longer you kind of wait for that to happen, the worse it kind of gets in terms of like lesser spawning. But this is kind of like the debate where it comes down to, okay, should everyone suddenly be looking for it? Personally, for me, like I try to minimize damage control by just trying to locate it as fast as possible after that. But again, this comes down to a team communication thing, like what do you want to do? Because more often than not, someone usually goes to look for the Goldie afterwards anyway. Like, and someone is running the eggs in between. So ideally, in an ideal situation, your team is flexible enough to know how sewers work, and they are opening the sewer checks, the checks that people are already doing. That's assuming everyone does that. Obviously, like, for example, our group is kind of well versed enough to know, like, okay, this person can just go look for the sewer after that. We trust each other to that element. Some other groups may be more hesitant. They're like waiting for someone else to check the sewer, or they're already having this specific weapon going looking for the sewer. And that really comes down to like your team synergy at the end, how you feel comfortable with like who you're sending to go look for it. So at the end of the day, that is something they take into consideration. Generally, this applies more to freelance. Is if you notice the sewer is getting opened wrong, and you know like your teammates are distracted by golden eggs or whatnot, like obviously our first instinct is to just go look for the Goldie immediately, so they stop opening sewers. Unless you have someone that just decides to open all the sewers, then you're probably screwed anyway. But usually when you're in freelance, your quota isn't going to be like 21 in max hazard, so you're usually damage control wise not going to be that bad. But it can still get pretty bad. But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm going to be focusing more on overfishing strategies, which from original standpoint, if you recall from 2 days ago, everyone should know how the general sewer strategy operates. In terms of trying to deviate from that strategy, I would say I need to experiment it more. Namely, it comes down to like I don't have the time to sit down and try that yet. So, right. Nina, since you had a chance to kind of try that, what have you been feeling is the general like consensus?
The general consensus. Well, let's see, you do realize that the D is like very close to the basket, right? So
I'm aware.
Oh, I labeled it by letters right now, if you could see that.
Yes, we can see that.
Well, let's see. There's a part where hold on. Kind of like right. Usually, obviously, we would be painting this part. Obviously painting all the walls and stuff. So usually when it comes down to countdown 3, we will be countdown 3 when the gushers pop up. We'll be ready to at least shoot D. It could be like around here. Shoot that one, and then there's probably another one would shoot right around here while probably painting these walls right here.
Okay. So I know you're talking about painting walls a lot, which is something I haven't really covered in terms of like how to mobile move around. I'm going to apply a little bit of a probability thought in this, and tell me if you agree with it or not. So taking the walls picture out of the way, let me just ask this question first: does anyone, in chat included, are all the sewers uniformly distributed? Like, there's an equal number chance that Goldie can appear anyway. Has this been like tested?
An equal chance?
Am I
Me personally,
supposed to see
no.
something?
Because this is something I'm assuming. Like, I'm assuming all the sewers are uniformly distributed. I don't know if that's true.
Like
I never tested
like
it, no,
the
so I'm not sure.
probability of
Yes.
discussion. If I remember correctly, they're all the same.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
What
in other
do you
words, the
mean?
chance of opening I is the same as the chance of opening C, the chance of opening whatever kind of sewer like the Goldie
Yeah,
ends up appearing at.
It's all evenly distributed, like all
Are
random.
you,
So
like,
there's not
asking
like a high
if,
there's not
like,
like
they
a
all
higher
have,
chance that the Goldie would be in
like
this
the same
sewer.
chance, or
Okay, so let's assume that we're rolling with that model then, just to like keep the argument simple. Like, I can't really verify that, obviously, unless we have like someone in a data mine or can verify that information. But like, for the purpose of this argument, let's assume like they're all uniformly distributed. Now, it's probably also safe to say that the only time the strategy benefits is if you do not get sewer E or F. Do you agree with that?
Mm,
well, I'm not terribly familiar with like this new strat here in general, so I personally like wouldn't be sure. But
Well, that's the thing. I'm not sure either, but I'm just
Yeah.
going with route like probability theory at this point.
I don't even remember what the letters stand for, so
Okay, so
I
right now
just
we're
go by
looking at
the
Mina's
word.
stream, and Mina's basically sharing the letters there. So take a peek there for a moment.
But I can't watch the Twitch stream right now.
Okay, let me.
Okay.
We can do both at the same time.
Can someone take a picture and just post it in Discord so Mick can see it? Then, so someone in like the Discord call, just take a screen.
Yeah,
and
I'll
post it there.
I'll
Thank
do it.
you. All right. In the meantime, I'm just going to continue in the meantime. So the thing about here's the thing. Let me talk about the original strategy. Then we can go on with the next strategy. So the original strategy is to open E or F, which more commonly you open F because it's harder to reach to.
I'll highlight it.
And then you open H, and then you open I, and then you act accordingly after that. That's the original strategy where you open a minimum of 3 sewers, typically on average. The new strategy, from what it looks like, you're opening D, and I don't know if I haven't studied it frequently enough to know, like, okay, if it's high or low, what it means. I'm assuming if it's high, it can either be C or G, correct? Or if it's high, it's only D.
If it's D, okay. This is the part if D is low.
All right, Mick, there you go.
If D is
Hopefully that helps.
if D is low, it could only be H
But
or I.
yeah, I'm like generally not too familiar with this newer strat in general. So
this is the first time I've seen it too, so I'm kind of analyzing it a little bit right now.
Dusty, if
so
D is
I
low,
probably can't answer too many questions that you have about it, but
Okay, sorry, Beta. Can you continue? If D is low, you said H and I
is the
it's
only one.
H and I.
H and I is the only one that could be it. So it's just you only turn it down to 2. That's when opening G would determine if it's H or I.
Okay, it looks like JX I posted something with the strategy. So the strategy is to open D and G, and then based on that, what do you do? Low equals I. Look, it makes sense. low high equals, I'm assuming that's respectively.
Yeah.
H high low equals E or F.
E or
And
F,
high
yes.
high equals A, B, or C. Open A, and then these that decide which. Okay.
Okay.
That's a interesting strat, actually, to be honest.
Being attentive to A is also important if you get that information, or it'll slow it down. You could see how different from being in this position right here. Hold on. I don't think it's usually like Bamboozler can be in this position and shoot D and G and immediately hit F. Uh, if 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 G is low and D is high, Eagles they're in the position to be ready right here.
Honestly, whenever nighttime falls, I'm always at X, no matter what weapon I am. You'll notice this every time you play with me. Like, you probably have noticed this. Like, every single time the night falls, I'm always at that spot waiting for something to happen.
I am also the same. Like I stand right there.
I actually stand a little bit further outwards on that little paintable surface, just so I can move around quicker if needed to adjust.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, but that's usually the spot I would be in just to prepare for if we get sewers. And usually I can hear 2 of the griller spawn locations that appear if I stand there as well.
Usually the spawn location right here.
I don't stand that far out, but that's the general area. Anyway, the thing I'm trying to say at the end is I haven't had a chance to really test this new sewer theory yet, but I can start to kind of see the merit with why this would work.
I think that JX summed it up pretty well in chat. Like, it's generally faster than like going all the way out to E and F. Basically, that's like the main goal of this, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So
I guess the main question comes down to, well, actually, even for my group right now, is this something you want to try or have tried? Well, I know, Mina, you've been farming a rotation for a while.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I enjoyed the part because usually in seeking we usually go fast, probably in like less than 5 seconds to find the Goldie, usually. And sometimes when someone is shooting like around here, we're assuming that, you know, we don't have like Grizz Charger range or /E leader. Usually a person would have to like go here, like go around like in this one and probably move like in this direction if F is not the right one. And then, but that's only like a what if. But if, and that means the person would have to kind of take a while to backtrack, like right here, depending on if you're going, if you're squinting over in this direction. But if a majority of us are seeking right here, that means if we're seeking right here and it's E or F, the person knows that it's right over there, so they don't have to like do the. Sorry, I'm usually mumbling. I'm trying to get my thoughts in, but basically, if instead of going on the chance that it could be E or F from the get-go, going towards the E and F when we're 100% sure the Goldie is in there would help us grab an early egg and damage the Goldie a bit more. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, don't worry. Let me try picking it up there. I think this is what's going to work the best. I want somebody, Mita, if you would actually please post the new sewer strategy in the respective channel in our server, and then as a group, next time if we do end up playing, I want to have a discussion to see if this is something we want to worth try out. Because at the end of the day, it really comes down to two things. One is if everyone is on the same page with the same strategy. That's pretty much what that's actually kind of important. And if that's the case, how quickly are we willing to change the strategy? And then we can kind of come to a decision that way. Because this will probably take a while to learn as well. Like figuring out, okay, DG is high. What does that mean? DG is low. What does that mean? Because I think you need to like probably put a chart out there. So, and then if we do end up playing, ultimately ask ourselves, is this a strategy we want to try out? I think that's what we need to do.
I need to step away for like 10 to 15 minutes. So.
Okay.
Remember, this strategy is like Bay, where we open 2 gushes at the same time. So it's not. So it's not. We're not opening 1 gusher.
Right, but that's
one
the
gusher
thing at the
is
end
more
of the day
for
too.
high tide.
The other strategy, you're also opening 2 sewers. In fact, you're probably opening 3.
Oh.
It's not too far off. So logically, the only difference is the travel time for the salmon noise are much closer in the middle, and so it's a little bit more threatening.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I'm starting to see merit here because ultimately the amount of sewers you're opening is the same. The only issue with this strategy, but that's pretty much the issue with all strategies, if you get bad luck with the sewers. So what the other strategy does is it minimizes the bad impact if you get bad sewers. But ultimately, if you're pushing scores, if you get bad luck, you're probably screwed anyway. Yeah. So that's kind of why I kind of see merit in the strategy for that. But that's the thing. It's like at the end of the day, no matter what you pick, everyone has to kind of agree, okay, this is what we're going to do and try it. And then we can come to a kind of a conclusion, is this worth doing? It's kind of like the smoke yard strat where people do Goldie like rush, where they parked on that usual freelance spot, but nowadays everyone uses the other side of the ledge. It's kind of the same idea there.
I guess.
Like I'm pretty sure people in freelance still use that spot, but then in groups we tend to use the other spot now. So I think it's just a matter of trying it out and adjusting and see where that takes us. So if that's the case, I would say post a new strategy, and it's something we can kind of look into whenever we get a chance and go from there. And this will probably take some studying too. I'll probably need to like refer to the chart from time to time.
I hope that your RNG would get some seeking this rotation. What is it when it comes to strategies? I don't want people to like take things like by heart. It's like, oh, this strategy is like the only way. Just try out things and come to their own conclusion, like you said.
The bottom line is the team has to all be on the same page. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Like if you're going to try a strategy, make sure everyone knows that you're trying a strategy, and so everyone can act accordingly. If you're doing another strategy, stick with that strategy so there's no like confusion. At the end of the day, it's about the consistency. The hard part is because we're so used to doing a specific strat that it's harder to like merit wanting to change, which is totally understandable. Like I'm also that kind of guy that's like, man, we got to learn something new now. Like I don't want to change it, but I think this is worth trying. If it means that we're checking sewers much closer, it might be worth trying out. And I can kind of see that happening if that's the case. What are your thoughts? Like, I just kind of want to hear everyone else's thoughts, like that are kind of sitting on the sidelines right now.
Yeah, I think I'm down to try this strategy because I think with the original one, it takes way too long to find the Goldie, even if you had good RNG. So anyway, you can get high score, in my opinion.
Anyone else?
Looks like everyone gave out their opinions then. It's kind of interesting.
Going for E or F first is annoying because you have to, especially if you have short range open, it takes so long to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to go all the way back. And then if you to H or unless you communicate with teammates, of course.
I believe the old strat might not work because obviously what is it on in the first seeking for the Goldie, everyone could get in like their positions on each end easily, but then probably like on the second onward seeking, it might be hard to get to that position ASAP because we're also attacking the Goldie at certain at specific choke points and gathering the eggs at the same time. That's why D and G, which are usually close to the choke point, which is probably commonly right around here on most of the escape paths, or it could be possibly right around here, here or right here. Just kind of considering what our positions are going to be after we're attacking the Goldie. If,
Yeah, and speaking of positioning, ABC brought up a good point where it comes to like the other strat being more beneficial. I'll be lying to you to say I have not pulled this off before, but on the ship map, we know we checked those 2 sewers on the bottom, but you probably have noticed recently I actually purposely checked the 2 far sewers as well.
Mhm.
Just because then on the off chance that it is the far sewer, then we save time.
Yeah.
Like I'll be lying to you say I did not pull that off before, but I have, and you probably have noticed me doing that.
I'm
So it's the
fine
same
with
idea
that.
with what ABC is saying. If
I-
someone is already there,
I've done it a bit as well.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to like what your team is willing to try out or not. I think it's good to have this under your toolkit, and it's worth to like fall back and to like put this as the primary and our old sewer as the secondary. But again, this is something we have to kind of try out to learn the new strat and get comfortable with. So ultimately, that's something like our group will discuss about and adjust to if necessary, and we'll come to a conclusion as a result. But hopefully, you can kind of see like how people like we adapt to change, and if there's a new strat, is like how do we pick it up? How do we adjust? Because even as you see, new strats are constantly getting found and new things are getting discovered. It's kind of like a never-ending like chase, really, with that. So at the end of the day, I think this is a good thing to switch to. It doesn't matter kind of learning this under our toolkit. So if anything, please post this newer strategy in the what's that called? The spawning grounds channel.
Sure.
So I can take a look and we have something. So if the wave shows up, I can just turn my head and just look at the channel instead of
I'll have to
frantic
do it
with fun.
after our voice chat.
Yeah, that's
talk.
fine. Don't do it now. Just do it later. Like as long as at some point it's sitting there, then we have quick reference. I don't really want to cover the high tide version because it's we could just jump right into the high tide and it'll probably be something similar. But I'm kind of curious about
normal tide.
Actually, no.
Right?
Let's do this then. Let's not analyze the high tide. Just post what the strategy is because it's pretty much the same idea. It's like we'll just take a look at it and then I'll give you I'll give you an educated kind of feedback for the team if it's worth pursuing or not. Just post what the strategy is and we'll take a look because it's pretty much going to be the same idea here. If there's an alternate strategy that people are trying,
I have to turn things off for a bit. H E F and I V 2. Let me.
Okay, so the high tide strategy. What is the high tide strategy? You open C instead of the F, right? Is that correct?
Oh. Yes, we're opening C. C first.
And then
here's
if it's high, it's F. If it's low, it's
no. If C is low, it's guarantee an A.
Okay.
If C is high, it could be either G, B, or F. So that means in order to determine if it's B or F, we're going to go to G next.
Okay, and then you open, and then if G is low or high, then it's F or B at that point.
Yeah.
Or you still don't know.
Yes, because G is not connected to F. G is only connected to B.
Yeah, I actually have no idea how the lines work. So that means G, if it's high, it's B. If it's low, it's F.
Remember, we're opening C first. G.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm aware.
So basically, A would not be touched at all unless C is low.
Correct.
So that would prevent opening both A and B, just in case if A turns out not to be it. Because remember in the original strat, hold on.
The original strat was F, G, A, B. Otherwise, it was FC.
Yeah, hold
So
on.
the difference is if you get B on the original strat, then you're pretty much the worst off compared to the new strat, which at worst off you're opening 3 only. The problem is the newer strat. If you get F, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. That's the only difference. Because honestly, opening C is very questionable. Simply because if you're having salmonoids come from the one direction you don't really want it to come
Remember
from.
that we're kind of doing this high risk because on C the only escape path is next to the basket on C. So opposed to like A, C gush is the only escape path that is guaranteed to be next to the basket. So in a way, we're optimizing the chance that it'll be there. So we could get so the Dynamo could attack that great RNG as soon as possible. We're kind of like optimizing the chance of good RNG.
Well, the bottom line is if you get F, you're pretty much royally screwed with the new model. That's the only difference. The old model is if you get screwed, then at least mainly they're coming from one direction. The newer model is if you get F, it's like the opposite effect. So there was some talk about the newer model like has a higher reliance on DPS to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
and I could kind of
Yes.
start to see that because you brought up Dynamo multiple times for that.
Yes, it does optimize taking advantage of high DPS because what is it obvious when we're doing high scores.
Honestly, the end of the day, I actually open C near the end of the waves just to quickly check to see if we can squeeze in something like lucky near the end. This is kind of like reversing that. It's like you're trying this first and then you're opening the safer ones later. But at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is we as a group have to kind of decide, okay, is this worth pursuing? And then is this something that we want to try? So since this is not something I'm just going to like ask our group, I want to kind of ask the community as a whole to like assess it, like take a plunge and try it out, and then just come to agreement if this is what you want. Because ultimately, this is what we're looking for, right? Like you're all here trying to get like kind of some feedback about like these kind of new strats that we're discussing, and this kind of goes to show like as things are getting discovered, how are we handling this, and what steps are being taken in terms of like, are we willing to make a change or are we not? Ultimately, we have to kind of analyze and kind of make an educated decision what we want to pursue at the end of the day, what we're trying to go for.
Are we going 100% safe when going for high scores?
That's pretty much the bottom line, and that's something I have to kind of still take a step back and decide still, because this is still suddenly on the spot. Like I didn't even know we have a new strategy until now. Like I knew we had, like in terms of discussion, like I knew this. So there was kind of a mention about this because yesterday someone brought this up. So I kind of saw it, but I didn't like look too deep into it. But in terms of like actually breaking it down now, like I have to like really sit down and like practice it first before and that's it. Like you just have to do it, you know, before if anything, at the end of the day. At the end of the day, here's the other thing too. I'm aware this strat is also used in Japan, and like they have their own kind of set of strats that's kind of slowly starting to get in light with like the US. And at the end, ultimately, it's like a culture thing, like what people are willing to try and what they're not. And that's something that you don't want to like just kind of file blindly. Oh, okay, it's just because they have this culture and that's what they're doing it, right? It just kind of defines them. Ultimately, you have to kind of, it boils down to like what you want as a team. Like, okay, if we're going to try this, let's try it out. And if we found out it just doesn't work well, then don't do it. I think that's ultimately the bottom line. Having everyone try to uniformly adjust to something just because one team is doing it and it's suddenly amazing because maybe they got lucky dice rolls. I don't think that's the healthy mentality at the end of the day. So I think that the way to go about it is this: give it a shot and see if it works well for you. But you have to kind of have someone that can like go sit down and say, okay, we're going to try this because you think it's for the overall betterment of your group. That's pretty much the bottom line. Like, and everyone has to kind of be on that same page and agree to that. If not, then if you're all like all over the place, then it just comes down to communication at the end, right? So it pretty much just comes down to, okay, can you come to agreement as a group and try something? If not, then don't try it. Like it's not going to make or break, right? At the end, it's okay. Kate, are you just trying to survive the wave, or are you trying to break the third wall or something? At the end of the day, it comes down to like what the group is looking for. Ultimately, I know at the end because it's more difficult because some people play pickups or they kind of message and go like, "Hey, you want this play?" So it's like they try to fall back on like a universal strategy. So that's like something else that I understand plays a role in terms of your decision making, and that's why people want to come to like a general consensus. Okay, what should we do, right? But the bottom line is this: like at some point, you're going to gravitate towards the teammates you want to play with anyway. So you're going to know what strategies they're looking for. So at that point, you just pretty much try to chemistry work towards that, and that's pretty much the magic of Salmon Run that people build up towards. Like, right? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Pretty much.
I believe it kind of comes to what people are comfortable working together, but then when you kind of get in the flow, sometimes when we're looking for a high score, we kind of get eager to optimize the better RNG over than just being safe, because some scores are just wave specific, not shift specific. So some people kind of go like all out, like obviously probably like high tide rush, for example. Sometimes just exhausting all of our specials, and
Yeah.
so
at the end of the day, here's my take on it. My overall goal, at least with our group, is consistency. So at the end of the day, if we're trying to avoid too much confusion when it comes to suddenly doing this, unless we have like some very good reason to go behind it. And I feel like you guys have been around enough to kind of trust me to that extent to go like, okay, this guy can make kind of like a really educated decision about, okay, what is the betterment of like for this in this scenario. So this is kind of just something that we are challenged with, even for our group, for what we want to do. So I don't really want to give a definitive answer because I haven't tried this new strategy to really get to know like, okay, what are the drawbacks of it yet. And at the same time, I need to kind of decide also, is this worth it? And then like I want to really sit down, take the time before doing that. And right now only hearing from you too. Like I have to hear feedback from like the rest of the teammates as well. Like, okay, what do you feel about it? Because I asked this multiple times too, and right now so far only Mina's telling me anything. So I feel like at the end of the day, we just need to give it time. And then just act like ourselves and come back to the table. Yeah, and then come back to the table and go like, okay, do you feel like this is worth trying? That's pretty much what I'm like, how I'm getting it. I feel like for everyone, this benefits too. It's like, okay, just take a step back, perform your own analysis, and decide if this is worth it. Like, right? And then we'll come back and then talk about it at that point. Like, what do you think? Like, I think that's a fair way to like go about it, right?
But I have a question about the sea gusher actually. I don't remember the laser that spawns on the sea gusher. Walking near the basket, do we fall down? Or do we follow the grate?
I know there was a diagram that someone posted that shows the flow of the salmonids that will fall down certain ledges. I don't have that on hand, but I know that exists out there. I'll probably ask Marty about it because I think he has it.
I think it would be much safer if you could do that, so that it's much easier to deal with lasers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we can really try to see like what the true merits of this is, and then the other thing is like knowing all these small tactics to optimize, like if like the gameplay of it. Yeah. At the end of the day, it really comes down to that, something that's separate for it. But I really did not had a chance to really do that yet, and like I said, this is like a collective effort at the end of the day.
I haven't tried yet, and I haven't played much of IT ticking in groups, so I'm not sure how it will work out in the end.
Yeah, so ultimately, here's the thing.
I hope I get it sometime tomorrow, but I'm not sure.
No, it's understandable. At some point, things are just like you only get like a couple shots to really try out a theory, right? Which is understandable. Yeah. So this is kind of like the collective thing. Like we need like the entire community's help to decide okay, what do you feel about it? And obviously people's experience are going to be kind of mixed due to like their performance and team's performance. Luck plays a role. These things are all going to be kind of skewed. Like ultimately the bottom line is in terms of like community approach, they're always all looking for kind of like what we call the meta, so to speak. Something that's consistent. So I'm a little biased when it comes to that regard. So I'm obviously keeping that in mind. And that's what ultimately people are looking for. So at the end, I'd say the best way is pretty much talk it out with your own team and see if there's something you're comfortable with. If your team is comfortable with trying it out, go for it. If they're not and they feel like it's better to, okay, just stick with the old strategy, right? Which I understand the sentiments behind it. It's like, why change to something new? Then that's something too, right? Like I obviously is a little like more biased, again, plus because we have people watching too. And you want like, okay, what's the most 100% like 100 best strategy at the end of the day? Right. So obviously there's going to be like this kind of conflict of interest ultimately, but because like at the end, our group has our own way, kind of how we do things. And then kind of sometimes they overlace with like other groups that play with other things. You kind of have to kind of just come to a team decision in the blink of an eye if you get sewers. That's pretty much what the bottom line is. And if you had a chance to go like, okay, we're going to try this immediately. And do you trust like your grouping enough to go like, okay, this is something we're going to do? That's something you have to ask yourself. Like, okay, ultimately, it's going to come down to who you're playing with. Like, if you're playing with a group that you are very solidly comfortable with, I think it's worth giving it a shot to see if this works for you. If you're suddenly playing a pickup, that's probably going to be harder. You're probably going to want to stick to the old strat, which is understandable. So ultimately, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not really going to help suddenly creating a poll is going like, okay, I want to do this new strat. And then suddenly you have like this other group where it's like, okay, I want to stay with the old strat, right? It's not really going to be feasible. Like, it's better off just, okay, you play with this group and then someone in the group should probably make like a more excessive decision going like, okay, we're going to try this new strat and that's it. And then if everyone's on the same page, then give it a shot, right? What's the worst that happens? You get more comfortable, but then maybe you learn something from it. And that's pretty much it. So that's something, this is, like I said, this is something I still have to kind of make an informed decision about like how I want to pursue it. Obviously, some people are saying like, yeah, you should just try it because it's new, like, right? We want to hear like what your feelings are because you're already in a group and whatnot. So again, I still have to take time to really see like, what is this really for the betterment, and talk to kind of some people like how they feel about it. So I can't really give like a definitive answer because again, this is kind of like on the spot kind of deal. We're kind of just filling the segment in while waiting for like troubleshooting on audio and whatnot. But hopefully this kind of discussion have given you an idea like, okay, things are still being discovered even as we are going forward. I shouldn't say discovered because according to people in chat, this strategy has been around in the Japan era, but it hasn't really become the light until recently. And also this is kind of other thing too, because I'm aware that people have been talking about kind of like an overfishing like strategy server that's been kind of occurring that will kind of start pushing the game to even more its limits with these kind of strategies.
Yeah,
that
we'll try
pretty
hard at
much you're trying to only go for like specific strategies designed for like overfishing, which I have not really understood. Like I can't really contribute too much of my opinion with that regard because I'm not sure how it's run, A, and B, if that's something people are doing. Like I'm not sure how the management of that server is planning it in terms of how they want to approach it. And ultimately, I have to kind of see how they decide to pursue it before I can do that. But in terms of like how our group is approaching it, that's something I will ultimately kind of decide after things outflow at the end. But ultimately, at the end, that's for like, I understand that's in the works and that's something that people are discussing about. We have to kind of see what ultimately, if everyone's on the same page and they're willing to try it out, I think there's nothing to really lose. But that's pretty much it. It's like some people, they're just like, they want to wait until they hear people say, okay, this is good, we'll try it, right? And then that's it. It's kind of like this whole VOD review session. It's the same idea. It's like people are just kind of waiting, oh, who's going to try it, right? 2 days ago, we did the first VOD review. And it was like, shockingly, we had this huge turnout that I was not expecting. It's like people are kind of waiting for it to kind of see what happens. And now today, we have another VOD review session. It's like, we don't know what to expect either. But it's like, someone's got to sit down and like give it a stab, right? And that's kind of, at the same time, part of the issue is people are kind of just waiting for something to happen. And then it's up to someone that decides, okay, I want something to happen and something's going to take place. It's not too far off from like what effectively is happening here. Is after today, like I know I mentioned this 2 days ago, it's like I wasn't too sure if I'm going to be doing sessions like this every time. Chances are I'm probably not going to be, just because there's things I have things I need to do like in my life at this current stage, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be sharing the same sentiments. But the goal of this kind of stuff is a community pool of efforts where everyone kind of contributes like to an extent of these kind of stuff. So ultimately, like while we do have like leadership driving kind of ideas here and there, like we can't do this alone. Like these, like just kind of like in Salmon, these are like all team efforts at the end of the day. People have to like kind of give like educated feedback. Okay, I've tried this. I really sat down. I really feel like this is a good idea. And that's pretty much what the bottom line is. It's like for stuff like this, I'm pretty sure people are discussing it, even this kind of stuff. That's why it surfaced here, even today. But just something to keep in mind, ultimately at the end of the day, in terms of what we're looking for, like from this overfishing server that people are in the works with. Like I'm not sure how too much like what the ultimate goal is at the end, and I know that's in the works right now, and it should be almost ready. But like I said, just give it some time, and once it's ready, I'm sure you guys will hear back from the people. Like you'll hear somehow. Trust me on this. Like whether for Twitter,
We
social
will.
media, Discord, someone's going to post about it. I promise you're not going to be left in the dark. In other words, social media has been such a powerful tool that you're going to find out one way or another at some point once it's ready. Like at some point, like just a show of hands. How many of you guys already know this kind of stuff is like lingering around? Like it's kind of in the works.
I believe I'm not sure, but I believe we're kind of when we're trying to give out strategies, we're kind of like, you know, just keep sharing these different goals and see and let and like allow people to try anything out, because some people, like if I showed like, you know, the connections of the gushers, some people would get confused about where to start, or maybe they're not, maybe they cannot you know, click and make their own strategy, so people kind of borrow existing ones and would try it out. But it would be kind of weird if there's only like one strategy, or because many different combinations, many different weapon compositions exist, so these could adjust varyingly, but then others could work for a majority of the shifts. So I wanted I wanted I wanted some of the overfishing strategies to be more what is it? More trying things out new, improving. I want things to be I want kind of overfishing to evolve instead of letting things kind of go stagnant, because I think when the parts um when we're actually seeing that the 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 highest possible thing is doable, then we want to go and reach the limit of, and I think that's the gist of overfishing. Um,
Yeah, so want people to still experiment, basically, right?
Always kind of when overfishing is pushing to the limit, we're always trying new strategies to test out, and I think that's one of the goals of overfishing that we could um, go for. So
Yeah,
it's fine if
I
people
agree.
want to stick to old strategies, and then so, I yes.
Okay, so Suniku posted, so you want the server to be more about discussing strategy, obviously, and try new things rather than just telling people this is the strat, correct? I don't know, actually, because I don't even know the server was in the works until 2 days ago. After the stream, someone told me about it. So, to be honest, it's like I said, at the end of the day, it's up to the management, whoever's running the server, what direction they want to do it, and what does the community looking for? Ultimately, at the end of the day, do they kind of want to follow suit and agree with that? This is something you guys have to decide. What you really tried, like collectively. And it really will boil down to the people you're looking for. At the end of the day, it depends on your team chemistry. This is pretty much the bottom line. Like your team has to decide, okay, this is something we're going to try, or it's something we're not going to try. That's
I
pretty much it.
I
If
I believe right now there's not a lot of people who could actually get to the point where where people could be experimental. So I guess right now we I guess right now we'll try to we'll try to we'll try to show things that people could be more comfortable to trying out. Because remember, overfishing is a little bit unknown um about the overfishing is a
Well,
little bit
I'll put it this
unknown.
way. I don't
So
think overfishing has been new. Like, it's been around for sure. Like, our group has been doing it for like a hell of a long time. It's just only recently people have been trying to really push the game more to its limits. I think there's been more groups willing to do that. That's the change that you're kind of observing. Now, the other thing I want to point out, and this is kind of something you want to be very careful about, is ultimately at some point you're going to be like looking to the person next to you, going like, okay, this group is getting the results, a certain result. What's going on with our group, right? Because there's going to be like this weird skill gap that occurs over time naturally, just due to skill level and just how much time people are willing to put in practice or execution wise. That's going to happen naturally, and this is why I say ultimately at the end of the day it boils down to your group's preference and style, because new teams are still getting formed even probably to this day, and they're going to be at a certain like skill level, like, right, they don't have that 2 years of experience of Salmon run that older veterans like me or like the people here may have. And it's going to be very apparent, and that's just how the nature of the game is. Like, there's no way someone that just suddenly picks up the game, even if they're like the most technical, skilled, like professional melee player, for example, that still picks up Salmon. Yeah, they'll probably have some transferable skills that transfer over in terms of like paying attention to spawns, knowing how that works. But there's going to be this skill gap that this is just going to be the case. So naturally, the newer teams that form is going to naturally be at disadvantage, regardless. And they're still going to be trying to figure things out as you go. They're going to look for advice, and that's pretty much what the goal of the server is, right? To try to give these kind of advices. Go like, okay, this is what we feel is the best. And like I said, at the end of the day, remember, this is my disclaimer, and I said this 2 days ago. These are only my biased advice. At the end of the day, how I feel like it's probably going to be for the betterment of your groups, or even the groups out there that are seeing this for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you have to kind of just see it and decide, okay, is this going to be something we're pursuing, and is this something that's worth it, like for our enjoyment? At some point, you have to kind of decide: is it going to be for the betterment of like, okay, my group's like it works the best this way, and this is what we're going to do, or you're going to like try something that it clearly is not going to work out because they just don't lack the skills to take care of it. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And if you feel like you're ready to try to take that to the next step, then go for it. But don't feel bad just because you have to fall back to original strategies because you feel like you're not ready. And then when you feel like you're ready to dip your toes into the pool, then give it a spin. Like, I feel like at the end of the day, that's pretty much how you should tackle this kind of stuff, especially if new things are involved. Like, yes, it's cool to be on top of the food chain, to go like, yeah, I know the strategy is great, and I'm going to execute it, and that's it, right? But you just can't compare someone with like a 3-year experience in Salmon versus people that are jumping into the community to 6 months ago. You just can't. There's 0% chance. Like, right? Like, come on. It's pretty obvious. So at the end of the day, the groups that form are going to be the groups that, because, hey, I had a good time with you and that's it, right? Because it's not fun for suddenly, like, it's almost like this. It's suddenly like a higher level player, for example. I'm not going to name names because this is going to be a conflict of interest. And suddenly playing with like a lower level player, there's going to be like the skill gap that's so apparent. Like, it's going to feel like both are not putting in the effort like equally at the sense, and they're going to feel discouraged. So it's almost better to focus more on the, hey, I had a good time with this guy no matter what happened. like, when was the last time you kind of just died and you laughed, right? Sometimes, like, I guarantee you, for some games that happens, you just kind of die. Like Portal 2 co-op mode. You play Portal 2, you die, and you just break into laughter. You don't even, like, get angry about it. You just laugh. When was the last time that happened for Salmon Run?
Oh,
Like,
I
still
do
have
that a
moments
lot
like
of
that.
times.
To be honest, yes, that should be the norm. It should be like a death, and you're just like, oh my god, that happened. Like, obviously, yeah, we call out some BS deaths, like the scrapper butt killed us and whatnot. We have those moments. But the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, they happen, but the point is you need to kind of see where your chemistry is and if you're having a good time. If that's not really there, it is really apparent and it feels that way, and it's like tension, then it's clear like the player is not for you. And ultimately, you have to kind of ask yourself, because this is ultimately a team game. Like, you need 4 players to contribute to overfishing, and that's
Yes.
pretty much the bottom line. Do you feel like you can step up to the plate to do that? And if you feel like the group that you're with isn't doing that, then you have to find a new chemistry, and that's it. Like, our group here has been around for such a long time that we know our chemistry works so well. There's a reason why we're still around here. Like, obviously, there's some people that moved on and whatnot because they feel like their interest has changed and whatnot, and the chemistry doesn't match anymore. But there's a reason why the group here has stuck around for such a long time. Is because we are willing to kind of evolve, learn, and even make an impact from time to time. And this is kind of ultimately, it's kind of like almost like a corporation in the sense. I know that's a really bad comparison, but ultimately, this is like a team effort. And ultimately, I even encourage groups to like, okay, go out there and like try to form these own kind of things to see what they can ultimately impact on the bottom line. It's up to you guys. We kind of just set an example. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're not, like, I wouldn't even claim we're the first ones. Like, obviously, this is just an example. Like, the sewer strategy is, we're not even the first ones to find it. We're just like we're just analyzing it and going like, okay, is this something that's beneficial for us? That's pretty much it. That's how we're approaching it. Like, whether the people agree with that methodology, that's up for other debate too. And again, the bottom line is that's how it's been kind of operating here. And we felt like we had a great time, like even evolving, continuing to do what we're doing. Now it's up to the other people in the groups, like, especially when the overfishing server kind of comes to light, it's up to the management to decide ultimately what they're looking for and the community ultimately what they want. So this is really the biggest takeaway is you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, is this really what we're looking for? And then decide if you follow or you walk or you find your own group to do that. That's pretty much it. What do you think?
It's always kind of kind of like the part when people don't kind of have trouble doing pickup. Like that's cool if some pickups don't click. It's kind of a learning process to talk with each other. But I think as long as you're kind of communicating any of your goals or objective, or maybe if you're interested in learning more about the overfishing process, just stating that goal is pretty nice.
Here's my take on that, and something to consider, because I understand like the concern there. Like I know where your concern coming from here. Many times, and actually I will say this just from pure observation and from other people, many times people that leap into the fray like for pickups usually lack some sort of core skill that is missing. And this is something like a clear skill they can easily pick up in freelance. And it becomes very evident, and that's why sometimes they get stuck in that limbo, because it's kind of like a catch-22, right? You can only play like overfishing to learn the strats, and then you're like stuck in this mechanical skill that you're missing by like not doing freelance. I've seen from time and time and again that many times it's really just some technical skill that's holding them back, ultimately. And until they patch that up, it's just going to continue holding them, and it'll just become a liability once like the whole squad comes together. Because ultimately, that's what it is. Like you go to freelance, you probably are looking for some technical, like mechanical skill you're trying to repair, or you're just trying to play a quick pickup game without even thinking about overfishing. Because I do acknowledge that the strategy for overfishing and pickups are vastly different. Like I do acknowledge that, and that's not different. But I also want to acknowledge the fact that I do see from time to time, even people that are stuck in the pickup limbo, that there are just some technical things that they are just clearly not trying to make an improvement on, that it clearly shows when the squads occur. And until they fix those, they'll just end up being a liability, and people will notice that. So at the end of the day, you have to kind of find the right chemistry, and it will naturally gravitate towards that. The people that are kind of like not have more flaws will naturally gravitate towards people with like has a little bit more flaws too, or vice versa. So it's up to the players to kind of find, okay, what chemistry they can tolerate and then make it work. Because ultimately, people sacrifice something. Like nothing is going to always 100% go your way. That's something you have to come to terms with. Like you're not going to find that one magic player that is suddenly going to be like the god you're looking for. Everyone has their faults. That's what makes us human. That's how it is. That's how life will throw it at you. It's up to you to kind of ask yourself, okay, am I willing to put up with it? Are we willing to grow, nurture together? And that's how teams develop and stay in the long run. You want to kind of ask yourself, and you have to be very honest about it too. Because if you're not really honest about it, it's going to just fall apart very quickly. And you see that. Like people can tell you all the things they want, but over time you will see what their true intentions really are. But especially for people starting out, you have to ask yourself, okay, am I willing to like put in the effort? And do I feel like the person next to me is trustworthy to kind of do that too? And then sometimes you have to kind of put your foot forward and take charge and do that. Like you have to ask yourself, okay, is this really what I want to do? And then do it. That's pretty much what overfishing will be tested. The overfishing server is going to be tested on. I can pretty much already see that. Is, are you going to be willing to do it for the betterment, or is it something else that's going to get in the way? And that only time will tell if how is it going to play out. Straight and simple. So something to really take into consideration after that. Okay. Also, I'm looking at the time now. I realize we spent the past hour talking about this kind of stuff, and our main original purpose was to like VOD review. So I do want to kind of like interject here a little bit and just kind of ask: is there any general questions? And after that, I'm just kind of going to kind of proceed into like the VOD review session, if that's okay. And just to recap, I post the sewer strategy in the server, like in the channel, respective channel after this Mina, and then I'll take a feel at it, and then for the rest of the team members, also kind of, if you have the chance to kind of play this rotation out, just give it a gander, give it a shot. I think I kind of see some merit on it, but be on the same page if you're going to attempt it, and just kind of make a informed decision about like how you want to go about it. I trust you guys enough to be able to do that. That obviously, since like I'm kind of like, you kind of probably see me as kind of the head of the group, I like to also have you guys try to get your own inputs about it too. And then we can collectively make a decision. Okay, is this something that's going to work out for us? I think that's how we should approach it. That's pretty much how I'm going to tackle it. In other words, okay, in the meantime, is there any like general questions? Like, I'm going to try to open this up for, especially for our server people, and also just kind of chat. And then I'm going to pretty much push forward after that.
I really hope that everyone has good luck on actually finding seeking in squads, because I want people to have good luck. And salmon was, an actual food salmon was on sale for $5.50. So it better be the sign of good luck for everyone to have seeking try this strategy out, because obviously rotations only last for so long. It's so limited, but so just try your best with all that.
I
There's
know
always
I
nitro.
try
There's always grinding
overall.
nitro. I mean, if you want to sit down and grind nitro, I know some people are willing to do that. But that's something else I wanted to talk about too, is in terms of like really optimizing a strategy. Ultimately, my view is this. Like, you'll notice this immediately, even from Thursday's VOD review, is many times I only analyze like what is occurring on the spot. I don't even really go into too much detail about, okay, if we get this, what we're going to do, right? Because seeking is probably the only real technical thing that you have to study outside of Sound Room before you can jump in and go like, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's pretty much the only thing that you have like a textbook thing for, and then the rest is execution. Most of the time it's execution, and that's it. You don't even like really overthink it too much. You just kind of go like, okay, I want to play the game. And that's pretty much how I've always approached VOD reviews. And you'll notice that very like straight up. It's like I don't even analyze a lot of the stuff outside. I wait for it to occur, and then I break it down at that point. But many times, obviously, I have like kind of this background like of kind of somewhat knowing, okay, this is what I have to do to kind of make it a little bit more consistent and more optimal. I hope like you guys also kind of see it the same way to an extent. So it's pretty much how I'm like, I really encourage like the rest of you guys pretty much just approach it kind of like a similar way, really at the end.
Oh. Dusty, did you start the video?
No, I hear, okay, there you go.
That's all right.
Okay.
Overfishing is tough, to be honest. It's
yeah.
alright,
I mean,
though.
what's his name? Spox has to like step out for a moment, so we'll see if we're still going. I plan to probably keep this going for like another hour-ish, looking through the VOD, but we'll see how this unfolds. Is there any like general other questions, and like especially this call, because right now there's really only like 2 or 3 people like really talking at the end of the day. I just want to kind of make sure, like, am I saying like making a lot of sense, or is it like I'm crazy talk? Like, what do you guys think? I want your also like inputs in terms of that.
Everything kind of felt nice. I do kind of flub my thoughts too much, but I do kind of see your point of view when it comes to this topic. It's pretty tough, to be honest.
It's not easy to balance. Ultimately, moral of the story is just ask your group like, what are you looking for? Is this something we can like come to agreement on? And that's it. And just go with it. That's it.
Okay.
So I'll get back to in terms of like for our group, I'll get back to you like how I feel about it. But you probably already know the answer. You know me well enough to know already pretty much have an idea like what my answer is going to be. Like, come on, you guys know me that well. But I'll put it in writing so we have a confirmation later on in terms of how we're going to approach it. But if not, we don't have any questions. Let's jump right into the main course, which is the VOD review. So I here have the same 4 games with the high score from ARC, except now I started from the second game. I don't know if we're going to actually get for all of them because we probably noticed these take forever to analyze and break down. And I promise I'll be a lot more gentle this time, Mina. I know maybe last 2 days ago I got a little bit like more aggressive near the end.
I've been kind of having fun trying. What is it? Going through the recent grind too. That usual 4-hour grind. Then it was kind of fun. What is it? Thinking about snatchers or even this certainty of priority. Obviously, I noticed I flubbed up a lot, but I'm kind of happy that I am taking consideration of things little by little.
Well, yeah, and ultimately, remember, at the end of the day, these changes aren't going to be immediate. Like, I'm pointing these out, and plus, there's probably going to be overlapping errors, which I know it takes time to correct. So, I'll try to take that into consideration. Try to be more gentle with it, because I know it's not really that easy to go, like, to see it again, you go like, oh my god, this guy made the same mistake, right? So, like, I understand, it's hard. Like, I'll try to avoid that. I'll try to focus more on the bigger picture to an extent, and less on, like, hey, you should have done this, you know what I mean, right? So... I try to focus less on that, and just like before, I'm going to let the entire wave play out, and then take a step back, and then give my thoughts. And I encourage you guys to kind of do the same thing. Like, as I'm playing through it, just review the VOD. You'll probably even see some stuff you probably would have done differently. But again, that's part of the learning thing. It's like, before I even talk about it, you already see it. And that's kind of something about the amazing thing about these things, about being a self-teacher, is you look at it and you just immediately know what you did wrong. And you're just like, oh my god, I should have done this. What was I thinking? Or maybe you knew what you're thinking, but you're just doing something else. I encourage everybody who's looking to improve their self-game, find a way to record your game, step away for a couple of days or even a couple hours, come back later and look at your gameplay, and then I guarantee you, promise you very quickly immediately know what you need to work on. And then next time you open the game, you try improving on it. That's pretty much it. I know this also takes a lot of time and effort to really sit down and be willing to do it, because I guarantee you a lot of you people are like, even watching right now or even this call, are probably something like what we call camera shy. It's like you don't like to take selfies or something like that. It's kind of the same idea. It's like we're fearful of like our own results. But what better teacher than looking at your own gameplay and going like, this is something I need to work on? Yeah. It's just pretty much the bottom line. You got to come to terms with it. That's it, plain and simple. If you can't do that, then you just want to play the game, then it shows. Like that, then you don't get to really complain like you're lacking a mechanical skill here and there. Some people just want to play the game. So ultimately, you have to kind of ask yourself what you're looking for out of the Salmon run, and if your goals align, then that's it. Then if your goals align, then that's even great. But over time, your true intention is going to get revealed. That's just plain and simple. That's pretty much how it comes down to it.
I believe those 30-second clips are fine. Are fine if you want. You could probably take like certain points, probably like the first 30 seconds, the last 30 seconds, or maybe somewhere in between. It's fine if you could only depend on that.
Okay, I'll give my input on that. Take 3 30-second clips and you'll get. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Okay, real talk though. If you're really serious about improving, you're going to find a way to make it work. Is the bottom line. I know that's a little bit of a weird like approach. So in other words, even taking 4 30-second clips from the start of the wave to it and gluing it together, doing what you need to, or even investing $100 capture card to like stream your gameplay. But if you really are like serious about trying to look to better your game, put into this investment. Like. There's really pretty much that's it. And plus, you don't even have to. You can use the clip feature of 30 seconds and just do it 4 times. Like if you even like remember to do it in the midst of all the chaos to like clip, or do it after you die every time or something. Actually, on that note, now that I think about it, clip every single time you die. Then you can kind of take a step back, go like, oh, I could have like done something differently before that happened. That's something
Although-
to consider as an option. I'm just stating, like at the end of the day, for the folks out there that are looking to kind of betterment their games, review your own gameplay. That's pretty much plain and simple. I promise you, it's sometimes a difficult thing to commit to, but I promise you it's worth it if you really put the effort in. That's pretty much how it is. Like you have to put some effort in and then put in the work and then you'll see the results. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I promise you, if you do it right, you have to have a certain disciplined mind to go into it. Then that way, so, like people all learn differently. This is just what I'm suggesting. And remember, my opinion is only just my personal biased opinion as well. So this is just something I feel like give it a shot. Like, right? Like obviously some people's like budgeting is not much different. They don't have like a $200 to throw away on a capture card to suddenly be able to stream their gameplay. Yes, I understand. But bottom line is you can just use the Switch record feature and just clip every 30 seconds. Like worst case, find something that will work out that you will do it, right? That's pretty much the bottom line. And make it work out. And then finally, once you take a step back and you're able to do that, find someone willing to sit down to give you a second perspective. Ideally, someone that hasn't seen the gameplay yet. Like right now, what we're doing, this is my first view of a lot of even Mina's perspective. Because then it'll give you kind of like an unbiased opinion of like what they see and what they feel is different. Even better if it's your teammates that you're willing to like try to form a connection with long term to do that. I know a lot of us are kind of like guilt in this like high quick results kind of feedback, and sometimes it's easier to kind of just go to this high level player to go like, hey, can you just tell me the feedback? But truth is, they have their own kind of agenda and their own feel that at some point, yes, they're willing to like sit down. Because trust me, like the Salmon community, you approach some of the people and they're just willing to sit down and help you do these things. It ultimately just comes down to the bottom line is if there's a schedule work out. Some people have to kind of just put everything aside and just go like, okay, I'm going to sit down and commit to the schedule and just make it work. You have to want to do it. And both parties have to kind of agree to that. And unfortunately, as someone that's if you're starting out, you may be less of a control in terms of like flexibility. But over time, if you feel like that something like you really want to make it work, scheduling is usually the number one reason something doesn't work out. But if you really are committed to it, you'll make something work. Plain and simple. So bottom line is this, like I say, like in the time being, like as a temporary solution, I do say as a starting point, clip every time you die. That might be something that's good to start, but I don't want to say focus too much on the deaths because at the end of the day, yes, deaths is bad because that's a kind of a freelance mentality. A death usually means you lose. But in overfishing, and my crew can attest to this, like I die pretty much all the time. Like most of the time is because I'm not even paying attention. Like I don't even really care. And I know that's a selfish thing to like think about at the end of the day. But for starting out, for most of the squads, especially if they're starting, like clip every time you die, and that should be enough gameplay footage to kind of see like what happened. At least for starting a starting analysis. Like take 5 clips every single time you play Salmon Run. That will be plenty enough for you to go back and then reanalyze it to go like, okay, what I could have done differently. Don't do it immediately after you finish the game. Get 5 clips, take like an hour break to play Call of Duty or another game, or go play Ranked or something like that. Then come back and look at the clips so you have a fresh mind to do what you're doing. If you guys want to get a capture, I'm not sponsored to say this, so unfortunately I can't advertise it as much formally as I want to. But well, I believe most people use the AverMedia capture card at the internal one. That's pretty much the most popular one. It's also the most priciest one, but at the same time, like I said, you pay what you get for it. Like I kind of believe that notion to an extent. Like obviously, there's a lot of interlacing in between in terms of like reviews and whatnot. But if you can afford it, I say put aside that $200. You already put $300 into a Switch. Come on. Well, $200 is not going to break your bank. Well, some people it will, but do that. If you're not willing, clip your gameplay and review those later. Get another review perspective to see what's going on. Make sure it works, and go from there. Okay. That's pretty much something I would say at the end of the day is. When it comes to betterment of your gameplay, you guys keep that in mind as I play these videos out. You will probably see some stuff that you already know immediately. Hey, I know this was a solution I could have done differently. It's the same idea. It saves so much time at the end. But ultimately, you have to do the job yourself. Like you have to kind of ask yourself, okay, what do I suck in? And then whatnot. And then get another angle, which your teammates hopefully will be able to provide. That will further your gameplay. And ultimately, that's the way you improve. Let's jump right in, all right? For everyone else in the call, especially Keels, are you still there? Just wondering. Keels?
Is she still awake?
or did she like pass out?
I'm here.
Okay. I just want to make sure because it's like
Yay.
I know you usually are pretty silent when it comes to these groups, but I just want to make sure you're.
I believe my hand is actually not too weary, so I think I'm good now.
Well, there's not much for you to do with your hands. I'm mostly the yours is pretty much recording like my screen capture. So if there's no questions, let's jump right in and let's see what we got. Okay, so this is game number 2. So just like before, I'm gonna let the wave play out, and then we're gonna back pace to the wave, and I'll get my thoughts. Enjoy.
All right.
Finally, we get to see after an hour and a half.
Listen, I believe it's
lecturing
important
random
to go
stuff
over
about
it.
sewers. We
It's
are finally in
important.
for the main
It's
event.
a topic that's been kind of buzzing around, so.
Hey, I mean, I figured I'd get my thoughts out there about that because, hey, it's still my super biased opinion about my feel about it, and I encourage people to kind of think about like what they truly want, and if that's really what, because we're ultimately looking for the betterment of the gameplay.
All right, Dusty, you'll be seeing stuff that I'm doing this though. You'll most likely say, "Hey, why are you doing this? You should be doing that." It's fine to do this.
All right, nice. Let's take a look at what happened. So we're gonna back up to the beginning of the wave. All right, let's take a look here. So, a couple observations here. One is we got a lot of good RNG at the beginning, and then some stuff played out that were a little bit more questionable. But let's take a look at what happened. Okay, first off, so to cover a little bit of base here, especially for high tide sewers, I see a lot of teams still do this, especially like the people that are just kind of pickups. They still open the sewers that are behind us. There's a reason why we always open the first sewer that we're all shooting at the beginning, especially right here. You can see immediately all of us are looking at it. There's a very specific reason why. It's simply because if you open the sewer behind us, there's a high risk that you open the basket sewer too. Just because the lessers are crossing that path, and it runs such a high risk of just getting overrun. And everyone that has played this on Max Hazard knows that if you open all 4 sewers, it's like just suicide at that point. And if you open even 3 sewers, it's like you have to burn a special just to like not get home, unless you get cheating charger or something like what we happened here. But the bottom line is the overall goal is still the same. You want to minimize the sewers that you're opening. For our group, obviously, like we're already all seasoned about that, but just to make sure, just a refresher for everyone, people are watching, don't open the sewers that are by the basket. Always open this one first, and according to open on this one first, act accordingly. Just because you see this one low, the most common thing to do is to open the one behind the basket. Open that one last, always, period, okay? You won't really get to see that in our squad simply because we know how sewers work, but never, ever open that sewer unless the Goldie's in there. This period. Like none of this lesser should be coming from that side. Like it just cause the easiest way is to let the lessers always come from this one direction where we're looking at, and the management just becomes so much easier at the end of the day. All right, let's watch. So obviously, one thing for sure, if that sewer is high, is 100% always going to be the sewer. So something to always make note of that. So we did get the first very lucky Goldie that we just immediately blew up. Now, the special here usage, I can understand its merits. I kind of questioned a little bit. If it was wave 3, maybe sure, just blow it, right? But if it's early on wave 1, I would usually save these specials for the more common spot, which is on that little hill on the right of it. So you have more lessers that you're able to clear, because inadvertently there's going to be like lessers that spawn from there, especially if the Goldie's on either like the basket or the one behind it. So the splashdown early there was kind of a questionable move, but I wouldn't use it in that scenario. That's just my opinion. All right, but anyway, the Goldie blows up here relatively quickly, and then we get the pretty much the same sewer setup here. Here, we all started shooting the Goldie, except I believe someone was not shooting at it. I feel like this is kind of a team thing I kind of wanted to address, is make sure we're all shooting the Goldie if you're able to. Like, the goal of the Goldie is we should try to murder it as fast as possible and just kind of space the lessers accordingly. Just general rule of thumb, especially if you know the Goldie is very near the basket, prioritize shooting that first as a group to try to kill it as fast as possible. Unfortunately, here I got the crappy jet scorcher, so I didn't really have that kind of leeway. And plus, the only real piercing weapon here we got is the G Charger, and we do have the little Junior and the E Leader to kind of put in some work here. But ultimately, the brunt of it is that it's going to be laying on the G Charger here, with lining up the lessers with the big Goldie and refilling the ink tank accordingly and running eggs in between. That's not an easy thing to balance. This thing takes a lot of time and experience to really get down. Let's continue. So again, the second splashdown gets blown there, which was kind of the second questionable splashdown that's used, because it's kind of the first 20 seconds you blow both specials in wave 1, which I can understand where it's coming from. We want to push the score, right? If it was wave 3, I wouldn't really be against that. But I would say if you have to burn a special, wait until you get kind of a bad sewer setup, which is like you open that sewer and you open the far sewer, and then it turns out there's a third sewer. Then the splashdown can save the day at that location once the Goldie passes by through it. Would be a better usage of it, especially when you're trying to do damage control. Early on, just to use it for pushing a little bit, couple extra eggs is probably not going to be really worth it in this scenario. Let's continue.
Actually, I'm kind of when it comes to the splashdown in Seeking, it reminds me similar to Rush, where it's usually like a brief moment of just no salmon at all. That small opening could be good for when excess of eggs littered on the ground, but kind of right now we're just on like the first few openings, and considering that this our good RNG is laying literally on the next to the basket, we're not on that huge risk yet of eggs piling on us. So there's a way when I wouldn't pull the splashdown trigger yet.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so pretty much that. So I would say just delay it a little bit later until things are starting to get over will be more optimal. But here I just kind of want to point out, especially since it's wave 1 and it's early, I would say it's not really worth it to get like a squeeze in some DPS there, even if it's just meaning for ink refill. Let's continue. So as I mentioned earlier, we got some pretty good RNG here going on here. So not much to really say about this. Obviously, someone accidentally shot that sewer, which is a team error kind of deal, and obviously
yeah.
mistake.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think it's the E-Leader that shot it, but I can't really verify that, and I won't worry too much about it because these things happen.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It doesn't matter if you manage it.
Can you hold on? After this Goldie kill, can you stop right there? I'm not sure if people are noticing, but we're making sure that the Goldies are killed like 100%. Don't leave the Goldie. Trying our best not to leave the Goldie at small HP. If you haven't realized that, it's because of like the size. Like depending on the size, it's like the maximum amount of golden eggs dropping. We're just trying to make sure that every time we're seeking, we're trying to every time we're seeking, trying to get like the maximum amount of eggs out as possible. There could be situations that that we mess up and mess up with the mess up and not kill it 100% and leave it medium or small HP. That's all right. Sometimes we do mess up on that, but
Yeah, you're basically losing out of like 15 eggs if you can't kill it in time.
but
Because you don't get a new Goldie, Ben.
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally pressed the button. I meant to say, yes, that is something you should be doing. So what I mentioned earlier, when you find the Goldie in a very optimal position, especially that second Goldie, just pile up on it. And if you have to deal with a lesser very quickly, it's like this comes down to target prioritization. Ideally, all 4 people can be on top of the Goldie trying to murder it as fast as possible. And plus, that also will limit the sewer enemies that spawn if you kill it as fast as possible. That's something to add on top of it. The exception may come down to if you suddenly find the first Goldie on the first sewer open. Obviously, that's not something that happens very often. But you should still try to kill the Goldie as fast as possible out of general good practice. So generally, pile on top of it, and then run eggs when you refill in the ink. I do want to point out that fact. That's something I didn't really talk about, is kind of ink like management and being more productive. Is generally good rule of thumb is fight when you have full ink tanks, and then when you run out of ink, run eggs. That's generally a good rule of thumb, and then you kind of balance it out. That comes with experience, but that's a good rule of thumb to begin off of. And when you hear moths start refilling your ink tank, and so simply because of the threat of moths, you want to stay on full ink tank usually for the majority of the time. But you can usually react fast enough in terms of hearing them coming that by the time you hear it, you start refilling, you'll always have it like at your disposal. But that's another discussion we'll save for another wave. Something to just kind of think about when it comes to ink management. Let's continue. Nice.
Alright, I think that part,
Yeah, there's not much to really else say about this sewer.
I guess the questionable part that maybe people are wondering why did I use that inkjet right there. I think half of it was trying to keep up. Obviously, on that one, my initial plan was to because that spread wasn't like in a straight line. So my what is it? I kind of consider the positioning of everyone. Mix the spotted shot junior, which it comes to the spread, and everyone else is kind of more like the shooter or like the linear line of the what is it? Linear line of chargers. So most of our shots are going to be like tunneled in. Considering mixed position is he's grabbing that far egg that we kind of kill. I'm trying to like alleviate kind of like that burst spread with the inkjet right there, and kind of like soften things up a bit. While going for that, I plan to cancel my inkjet by touching the water. So, because specials do refill the entire what is it, ink tank. So I could continue shooting.
Honestly, Mina,
on it.
all you have to say was you want to refill your ink tank. That's literally the only reason why you used special there. There was zero other explanation leading up to it. I even looked back at that part to check your ink tank just to make sure that was the case, because there was zero other reason. Unless we were getting overrun, there was no reason to really use it. Like I'm actually with you here. I actually would have used it here too. I'm a little more of a conservative type, so I probably wouldn't have used that while I would refill my ink tank. But using it here wasn't a bad play. The only reason you used it here was because you ran out of ink. Like we could even see that right before you used the ink tank.
I did dispatch that entire kind of horde-ish.
Like here, you even did it, and then here you ran out of ink and you just popped the ink tank. That was pretty much the only simple explanation. You popped it because you needed ink.
Oh, maybe it was the concern. I guess right there, I did kind of hesitate on diving in the ink because one player died, but it could change. It could change.
Honestly,
if I dive in.
there was zero real rational reason to jump in the water. I know you brought that up, but if you can constantly be shooting the enemy, there was going to be zero reason you're jumping in the water.
I felt, well, I guess.
Unless the Goldie dies fast enough, that's probably the only reason. But it wasn't happening because someone died and two of us were running eggs.
Oh,
we decided to let the Goldie go. Like I think I made the conscious decision to let the Goldie go because A had a bad weapon and someone died.
I did try my best to leave it on medium HP, so we could at least get some.
No, we were shooting the Goldie. I was shooting at it, and then I kind of let go of it here after
or
it crossed
focusing
the
on
sewer.
the eggs, correct? Because I see the eggs are being cleaned up pretty well.
I also told myself that I wanted to purposely leave it at medium size there because then it wouldn't spawn as small, and we will get a little bit more out there. That's probably why I stopped shooting at it. Knowing that you're going to still be on top of it, that's something to kind of take into consideration. That's like a very minor detail thing that I take into account. But ultimately, if the question is should you have popped inkjet there or not, it's not a bad play to pop it there, even if there were no lesser to clear up. It was because you wanted to be more efficient with the ink tank, which is not a bad play. Like you pop that inkjet before knowing someone's going to die, because you obviously went to that knowledge without knowing someone's going to die, and that was obviously unfortunate. These things happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't to save that for that. It was just unfortunate someone died, and these things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still make stupid mistakes. Obviously, it sucks, but something to keep in mind that at the end of the day, that's pretty much like how it unfolded sometimes. I think that's pretty much how the wave wraps up, and there's not much else to really talk about it. Like, obviously, we got bad RNG here on the very last one, and then we pocketed. I don't remember how many eggs we got. It was like 78 or something.
As you could kind of see, we kind of expected that flow of salmonids to kind of funnel in one direction, which it kind of makes good use of our charges shooting at a straight line. So it's not a total loss.
Nice.
Same, so. Oh, does anyone have like? Oh wait, Dusty. Does anyone else have questions about seeking right now? Trying to remember. This is the low side, right?
Nice. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment. Okay, so before we get carried off, I know someone asked a question about mid-tide seeking. The focus of the VOD review will not really be answering questions outside of what occurred on the waves. I know people probably have billions of questions eventually. Like, okay, what do I do on this scenario? What do I do in that scenario? At the end of the day, I'd say it's good to have these kind of concerns play out, and you want to like be adequately prepared about it. But I promise you, there's going to be there's enough resources out there to kind of have a textbook answer for this kind of stuff that you want to cover. But in the interest of time, and terms of like what we need to cover for today in the future videos, if we suddenly get a wave like that, I will cover it. But for other people, this is how I also kind of encourage like cooperation and teamwork in terms of like how you want to like cover these things. Just personally for me, this is how I want to like run the show. So instead of like seeking, okay, we're going to cover this specific wave type, maybe later on down the road, if people step up to the plate, or if I have time to actually sit down and find ways to do that, I may do that. But for the time being, our focus of interest is going to be specifically on these particular wave types. I hope you understand at least. That's how I'm going to run the show today.
Oh,
okay.
Hold on, Dusty. Reiko, did that funneling the lessers answer your question, or do you have an extra comment about it? Feel free to chat if you do have any questions about that last minute funneling of the lessers. If not,
Okay.
we'll continue on.
All right, I'll let someone else cover that because I did talk about funneling and the reasons for that near the beginning of the sewer video. So if you need to just get a quick refresher about like what I talked about there, just take it back at the VOD later on once this is complete, and you'll find your answer there. Anyway, we're going to move forward right now. Just going to interest. We're not getting stuck too much on like that past wave. I'm just going to move forward for now, and let's see what happens. Okay.
Ooh, Reiko, I could answer your question after that. I know how to explain it.
Okay, so first there, you were probably tunneling on that drizzle very hard, but your instinct should have been shot the drizzler. I know that's probably something that you're probably not secondary because that's not the first time that it happened, and I know that's something that's probably hard to set in stone. But general good rule of thumb is shoot the drizzle torpedoes, unless you're absolutely redirecting them out. But I have caught people that redirect it, or even not redirect it, and it's to pretend the drizzler is not there, either because they don't hear it or they decide not to shoot it. But there is probably one of the bigger things I immediately noticed, and it's not the first time too. Just get into a good habit just to take a couple of extra like a second or two just to line yourself up and just shoot the drizzler down. It's good habit. I know that one is probably super picky, but it's something that you should probably set in stone. And also this also goes to show that it's very important to have good audio setup, because having eyes behind your back is like a very big advantage. Like you can hear things that are coming that you wouldn't otherwise be able to hear. So an optimal setup is another thing that you want to take into consideration when you're bettering your gameplay. But there, even if you didn't have an optimal setup, just seeing the drizzle literally on your screen, I would have shot that first. So it's something to keep in mind.
Actually, now that I think about it, my idea was grabbing that egg before the drizzler starts moving. But judging from that video, it looks like that I could hit that drizzler bullet and ink my way towards that goal. So I guess it's more of a multitasking aspect.
Let's take a step back at what you said about that statement. So you say you wanted to try to get the egg past the drizzler before
the drizzler jumps.
Okay, so you can clearly see the eggs right there. At this point, you should already have seen the snatcher and know there was zero threat of it disappearing before you get to it. So I understand your sentiment there, but that comes down to kind of game knowledge that you don't really understand, is you have plenty of time to get to the egg before anything happens.
Oh, it's
the only exception.
The drizzler.
The thing that you're probably worrying about is if you suddenly get a bad eel spawn, which then I will understand you're trying to maximize it. But the chance of that is very low, and obviously it didn't happen here, so it's very biased for me to say that. So we really don't really know. Like that was the thing. But that's the only thing that could have truly stopped you from getting an egg. So I would say that argument, while has its merits, wouldn't really be able to justify the reason you didn't shoot the torpedo down. I would have still prioritized on a torpedo regardless.
What is it? It's more on about the drizzler racing against the drizzler attack cycle instead of the snatcher. I know I have plenty of time for the snatcher because of 2 eggs. I think I was just kind of more tunneling on beating the Drizzler attack cycle. That's all.
Yeah, simply you were just tunneling on it. And plus, when you mentioned you wanted to get some damage on a Drizzler, that wasn't even going to happen because you got listers like right on your screen over there. So I wouldn't. My first priority wouldn't even be trying to weaken the Drizzler, especially if they're that far out. Like trying to get some chip damage is something I know some people do before they get to the basket to try to manage the basket threat better. In this case, even if it was me, I wouldn't even have bothered damaging the Drizzler. There was like pretty much zero reason to do it.
I don't believe I mentioned that, but all right.
So I would say just be more mindful of the torpedoes. The bottom line.
It did ink up base, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of because we had to re-ink that later on.
Right. The bottom line I'm trying to make is there was no threat for the ink to suddenly disappear, and you know that the Drizzler just spawned. That wasn't going to jump immediately. So unless you were thinking that wasn't going to be really happening. It was going to shoot again, as you can see here. So there's the jump. There's that shot. Here's that second shot that's happening, and you knew it was happening, so you left along with Nick. I don't know if it actually jumped here. It might have jumped towards now. Mick. Yeah, unfortunately, I think it jumped towards Mick that time. But I don't think that's necessarily bad. Just because Nick was there, he got the egg instead, and then it jumped back here, so you can see it. The moral of the story, really, at the end of the day, isn't to be too nitpicky about the decision you made. It's more about prioritize the Drizzler torpedo. That's pretty much what it comes down to. It's a much bigger threat than you think.
We do have enough time, right? Because it's kind of like in the 1/3 section, so we're not too really too crucial about the Drizzler jumps yet. I guess in wave that could be a huge issue. All right.
Yes, but that was early on, and the bottom line is shoot the Drizzler torpedo. Just period. Okay, just shoot the Drizzler torpedo. Don't overthink it. Just shoot it down. Worry about it later.
Yeah, that's what I do all the time.
Okay, just saying. Okay, yes, we do. Yeah, sometimes yes, I do get lazy and I don't see that too. But there, you have plenty of time. There was no threats around you. Shoot down the torpedo. Let's continue.
The rain is too annoying.
Okay, here is something else I wanted to kind of point out. There was pretty much zero reason to shoot the scrapper here. I would have refilled the tank and repositioned myself so I could throw the bomb to take care of the maw. I know it's tempting to stun them right at the basket. I know that is something we all do to try to make a conscious effort, but you don't have to constantly be shooting at it or even killing it outright. You have a lot of time to just leave it there. Even if you need to make sure it stays there, just like every 1 second to shoot at it is enough. I know you're using something like the Splatling that doesn't really allow that, but you could use something called L canceling to refill, even if it's just to shoot one shot. This is more of a technical skill that you have to know that exists because you probably didn't know at that time. It's something you can do. But it is something you can definitely get away with, and it's a very useful tactic. For those of you that are wondering what L canceling is effectively while you're shooting with a splatling weapon, you go to squid form so you can immediately start charging up again. It's a very useful tactic for splatlings in general, and it's especially doubly important for hydras and even splatlings to an extent. So it's something to consider. And yes, I did just steal a Smash reference there, and I'm not mad about it. So anyway, let's continue. So here, instead of shooting the car, let's just take a step back again. Because you saw the maw there, right? Like obviously you didn't have the ink to deal with it, which is fine. But even leading up to it, if you had no ink, I would have just focused on running eggs instead of trying to shoot some extra shots here. Like you should generally try to be keeping at least 3/4 of your tank at the majority of the time as best as possible. You need a very good reason to not be at that like tank position. I would say focus on having a more fuller ink tank to be able to have more flexibility to deal with like in this instance of maw. I'm obviously it's biased here because the maw did spawn, but just out of good habit, try to keep a full ink tank. Let's continue. So obviously the maw came here, you decided to shoot the car some more, and then the maw came here, and then it was sustained alive for too long, in my opinion. Maws needs to be taken care of ASAP. If there are 3 maws in play, they take up the spawns for potentially more maws. They are pretty much number 1 threats that you would be thinking that it's stingers, you would be thinking that it's cars, you'll be thinking it's fly fishes. The number 1 threat is maws. The reason why is they need to die fast.
Or that possible maws would just be taken up by a different type of boss salmon.
Yes. So something to keep in mind. I don't even consider fly fish number 1 threat. I don't even consider stingers number 1 threat. The maws are their own threats for a different reason. It's because they can take up spawns. Period. So that's why when I say you have maws at the edge of the map when you're going for stingers and fly fishes, and you have cars following you, Go back to the basket. Make sure they die. Period. I promise you that you will see better improvements of like your egg scores in a sense. Here's why. Because if you leave them alive longer, you're going to just be rolling more chances of getting fly fish and stingers that you're constantly killing at the edge. So if you're constantly getting bad RNG, it may feel that way because of that. So sometimes it's something to kind of think about when it comes to dealing with threats. Is sometimes having the cycle nature of just killing moths quickly. I'm not saying to kill them at the edge of the map. Okay, don't do that. Don't be the freelancer that does that. But bring them back to the basket and bring the cars back to the basket as fast as possible. Let them die, then go and do your own thing. Okay, something to keep in mind.
I believe that's kind of an issue with what is it? Normal type Polaris, because you know how sometimes the travel time closer to basket takes a long time. But if they kind of linger around too much.
I agree, yes, but we're talking about moths here. Moths don't take that long.
Yeah, that's true.
Cars is another exception. Cars is a more difficult thing to balance because sometimes you need to have your team shoot at it so it comes to the top, then you send the other 3 down to get the eggs. That's a little bit more of a team synergy thing that you might see come into play here and there. Well, everyone in this call pretty much already knows that strategy anyway. So I know I'm pointing it out here just because it's for them. It's something that may be interesting to know, but for newer teams that are just forming or trying to get together for overfishing strats, that may be a lot more trust that needs to be built with your group first before you get comfortable doing that. So I'm going to try to leave that off the table because over time you will pick those up as you improve your gameplay. For the time being, though, the main takeaway here is moths needs to die quickly. Take them to the basket, let them die. Don't even kill that second stinger. Oh, if you can kill the second stinger that spawn quickly, then sure, fine, go for it. It depends on your consideration and speed of it. But general rule of thumb is you have a moth following you, get your ass back to the basket. Same thing with cars, get your ass back to the basket, make sure they die. Cars don't have to die immediately because sometimes your other threats are more higher priority. As long as they're just around the basket area and at some point they're dealt with, they're fine. This comes with experience. This is not an easy thing to balance. You have to really pick your fights very wisely. This takes time to really get down. Let's continue.
So you want to kill as many moths as possible so that more can spawn, right? Basically.
I mean, yes. Moths don't really follow the certain path. They could travel through the wall elevations. Freely.
They are 3 free eggs. There are pretty much zero reason you should not prioritize them.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's a little bit weird because your first instinct maybe just go after the stinger before it goes downhill, but my thinking is moths are number 1 enemy. I know that may be kind of a shock, but it makes a lot of sense.
They take up a lot of ink if you're not shooting them down too.
I mean, I know there has been debate topics about shooting down moths too. I'm not going to cover that in this video because it's not really relevant.
Yeah.
And that's a discussion for another day. But I do acknowledge that does exist. But like I said, I don't want to derail conversation more about, okay, this debate is better for this kind of scenario. We'll leave that in the bigger discussion servers. But more specifically for our group, what I feel is better. We're going to focus more on what happened here in this case. Okay, so takeaway here is moths needs to die quickly. That moth attacked twice. The first cycle was obviously unless someone was covering you were doomed. But the second cycle, the moth should have been dead. So just something to think about. Every moth attack cycle takes about 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds is another potential spawn that you're taking up if it doesn't die. So something to really, really take into consideration. This is why you notice every single time you hear that moth, you notice me already in getting the ink. So it's about the ink management and how you pace yourself accordingly. All right, let's continue.
That's why you were signaling this way, correct? Looks like we missed too many moths attack cycles. Okay, yeah. Now I kind of see your point of view on the issue. Is he still alive?
Is who still alive?
The moth. The moth that was kind of trailing you so long that you kind of died while trying to
stayed alive for 30 seconds.
Yeah, that moth's never died.
Yeah, ultimately, there's not much else that really can talk about the wave. This is pretty much your Polaris low tide. We did get a lot of moth lucky spawns, but we also did get some bad spawns near the beginning. But like I said, the main takeaway from those two is just the prioritization, shooting the bubble, the torpedoes, and moth prioritization. Okay, main takeaways. I know there's some other probably little bits and pieces here, but like I said, it's my biased feedback stuff and is what I've kind of see here.
Dusty,
Okay.
should I go over Reiko's funneling question right now? I could kind of go over it briefly.
Which question is this one?
Do you want me to read it out? It's
Yes.
Reiko said, I don't recall exactly, but I think at some moments, or even all four players were spread on left and right of the funnel, which possibly caused the lefties to spread left and right instead of just one direction, which may have made it more difficult for the piercing charges to hit the most possible lessers in a single path. Okay, let me go over it.
Is this okay? So first off, is this referring to the previous wave with the sewers, or is
Yes,
it referring to
previous
this wave?
Think about like the last Goldie. Remember how we
Was this
talked
the
about
Goldie take?
the lesser funneling in together?
Yeah, the second wave.
Hold on.
Which when was this?
That was the wave 1 of this shift. Hold on.
Yeah, the second wave.
The
Oh,
high tide
okay,
seeking wave. All this.
Yes.
Okay, so let me
This
reread it
is-
again. Let me see. I don't recall. Okay, but I think at some moments. Okay, so this is the problem. I think at some moments you need to be 100% sure if it did occur or not. Like, I cannot really guess if it occurred or not. We have to go back and look for it. But at this point, I think it's probably better we moved forward. But if we play that wave out optimally, the weather should be really coming only from one direction.
There's a reason.
Yes, that is a consideration at the end of the day if you're trying to line it up. But like I said, don't worry about more of that technical stuff. It's more about the execution at the end of the day with doing that. And you have to play along accordingly. If you try to only be a one-dimensional like player with playing out like a wave, okay, we're going to try to line this up and it's going to be more optimal that way. You're not going to have a good time. You want to like synergize well with the situation at hand. That's always how you play the game out. That's how Salmon operates. That period.
Is it all right if I could answer it briefly? It should be quick.
Okay, sure.
When it comes to funneling lessers, it actually depends on every team's position, because of every player's position contributes to how are the lessers traveling, and because lessers follow like the shortest the shortest traveling route to the player. So let's obviously the what is it? The Goldie ended up being right here. The Goldie ended up being right here, and that when we open this one, we our own method is to open this gusher, then this gusher. So that's like that's basically two lesser points that will be coming out. So the lessers would be like coming out like this. When we talk about funneling, the lessers are usually built up and funnel right here. The reason why there could be lessers funneling in from this direction is because there could be players shooting what is it? Shooting right here when it comes to that. Try to avoid, in order for the lessers to funnel this direction, you gotta have to consider your position and try to do not lean your position around here if you want to focus the lessers in this direction. That's kind of, it sounds simple, but it's kind of one point of like basically every movement that you're doing is always at play. Maybe it's not, maybe it's that minor thing that doesn't make, that's not important, but every spot does count. Every movement that you take is always considered from the beginning to the end. That's basically much it. I'm not sure if that answers your question 100%, but that's one example of kind of the funneling question that you have, Reiko. All right. I'll close the map down since I finished that quick talk. All right.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Mina. Actually, that's well like explained in terms of like funneling. It's something you don't even really think about, but that is a very good explanation in terms of like that. Staying like towards the left side instead of going to the right. So yeah, pretty much like what Mina said is something you don't even think about in terms of like your team synergy. But like I said, at the end of the day, you're going to notice there's a lot of small things that we're doing that you don't really even know why it's working. It's like a group thing. Only when you really take down and break it down and understand what, like when you sit down and start analyzing your gameplay. So this is why I can't stress enough. It's like if you feel like you want to betterment your gameplay, just go back and watch your videos. Like I can't stress that enough. It's like you're going to catch so many things that you feel like you could be doing better or whatnot. And if you really feel like you can't really see that, get someone to look at it and ask for advice. But ultimately, like I said, you're your own best teacher. Like only you know like what you're trying to look for at that moment. But you have to you have to put in the effort and understand like what it takes as well to like get to that next step. And you have to put in the work at the end. That's pretty much what it comes down to on that. All right, let's continue on to the third wave. And then look at the time. Unfortunately, just due to time constraints, I'm going to actually do this final wave and then call it after that.
Oh,
I think that'll be the best way to go about it. And then we'll do a quick wrap up and then that's it. All right. So now we're going to continue on with wave
right.
3.
It's already been
Yes,
2-ish hours.
So as you can see why, this is the reason why I like to try to keep things moving at a set pace because otherwise things don't get done. So I hope you understand this is why sometimes I try to push things forward as much as possible and try not to derail too much. But as questions do occur, like I do, like yes, I acknowledge they do occur. You probably have many. But this is why I try to make sure the questions stay relevant to like the topic at hand rather than much else. Also, I'm sorry I was talking during the majority of that first part. I'm going to rewind it and just let it play out and start it again. Nice. All right. Let's take a step back on what happened here. A couple of observations here. So first off, moral of the story is if you want to get high scores, just get sewers high tide, right? Or mothership high tide. Moral of the story is if you're going to go for a high score, you just need to get that and hope you get wave 3, the same thing. It's easy. 75 8 plus 75 8, just get another 50 8 and you get 200. Boom! I figured it out.
Don't joke about it. I think we did pretty good with this neural tide. I mean, it's.
I'm obviously memeing. I understand. Like, obviously, we did get low tide and medium tide, and we got 50 eggs each. But I'm just saying, like, if you think about it, in a sense, if you perform that way and you just let the dice roll and you get the waves you want, there's the 200. I'm memeing, obviously. Like, I know it takes a lot more dedication than that. Because if you recall, we did get like a 78 egg, and then we got like 250s. So that's like easily 180 right there. But anyway, memes aside, I'm going to focus now on the gameplay analysis. Let's take a step back. Backing all the way up. To the beginning.
Someone commented about my decision about the double maul at Facet. Make sure to pause that section when that happens. It was a double maul.
I don't know what you're talking about, but we'll get to it. Okay, so first off, something happened here at the beginning that I want to address, and this is something that you may not even think about until the heat of the moment. Okay, so someone went down there early to kill this early steelhead and trigger it. Now, this is something I know people discuss about, especially at Wave 1, and there's a reason why that works early on. I would be actually against it because of what spawned here at 2, but in the grand scheme of things, it ended up playing out because the third spawn was a maw. The thing about Max Hazard, and this comes to a more technical side of the game that you probably don't know about, is every 10 seconds in Max Hazard is when a group of boss will spawn. And every group of 10 seconds is linked to a number of boss enemies that will spawn. The only thing you should know is those group of 10 of enemies that spawn within those 10 seconds is not going to occur at the same time, but it's always a certain amount. So in this case, I believe it's 3 bosses within the first 10 seconds, and we saw 2 of them were steelheads. The problem is we don't know what the third spawn is. And in this case, it ended up being the maw. Now the problem here is if it's not a maw, then killing the steelhead was a bad idea, because then if it's not a maw, then 9 eggs ends up being spawning down there instead of only 3. And in this case, because there was a steelhead, you know you're going to have 6 eggs to deal with. So in this chance, the only way you win is if a maw spawns. There was probably going to be no chance to get 9 eggs here, and assuming the spawns change direction and you don't get like stingers like flyfish hell, I would advise against killing the maw early here. I mean the steelhead early here.
You're saying we should have waited
I would have pulled.
Couple of seconds at least?
I would have pulled. I wouldn't even have triggered it down there.
Okay, Dusty. Here's my gamble. It's cool if you disagree. It's cool if you disagree, right? Obvious. Let's see. Right now it's halfway towards the first spawn group of 10.3 seconds. I want the steelheads are not in the position where someone could get the aggro yet. Obviously that's like a gamble, but when I saw the second one, I had this quick thinking. It's like we need eggs, but the third boss in the first wave is going to be probably very late, probably like 1 or 2 seconds right before the next wave group direction could possibly be. I literally went for that gamble of popping that first steelhead. Luckily,
okay, what you told me here contradicts the fact that you did not do that because you were staying up here. That's the problem with that statement. Here's the thing. Here's how it unfolded. See, here's looking here, but someone was already down there, and it triggered it. That's when we all had to jump on it because we were forced to do that. It wasn't because you made a decision to do that to wait for the boss.
Oh, it was kills right now. Correct.
That's what actually unfolded. So I understand where you're coming from that you would have done it, but if that was the case, you would have already been down there.
I was too late in that mindset. All right.
Yeah. So what you stated there, like I understand where you're coming from, but that's not what actually played out.
I'm not sure.
How it played out was someone was down there already and triggered it.
I'm not sure if that's what Keel's thinking, but it's all right.
No, that's why we're analyzing it. So I just want to make sure, like here in this case, there was a reason why I was up here still, because I saw the 2 steelheads. I was like, okay, it's better to pull. But because someone triggered it, we had to run. So in this case, you saw like we all had to pile up on it. Now here, the final boss spawns obviously ended up being a maw. So we did luck out here in this case. But if it wasn't a maw, then it would have been up for debate should he have gone down. Like, if it was a stinger, then we would have obviously shot the stinger and then maybe triggered a steelhead, or
True.
even probably kill the stinger, all get the eggs, and then just leave. And then just let the steelhead come up. That's like, in this case, I would have done that. But like I said, every scenario is so unique that you have to pretty much let it play out and then decide in blink of a moment, okay, this is what we're going to do as a group. And I'm pretty sure, like, you play with me long enough and we play with each other long enough to pretty much already know, okay, that's what we're going to do anyway. So in this case, I know there was a decision to kill the steelhead early, and that has merit on wave 1. On wave 2 and 3, you have to be a little more careful because of the group of bosses that could spawn. So in this case, I hope this kind of analysis gives you a kind of a different perspective with why I didn't decide to kill it early here, and maybe it will give you a better understanding about why I avoid it in this scenario. And hopefully you can kind of start to see, like, really when you break down analysis, there's a lot of thought process that goes behind it. Here it ends up playing out simply because we got a maw. But if it wasn't a maw, then obviously the tactics have to change. And we'll, like, obviously that didn't happen here, and we'll have to save that analysis when it does happen. And I guess that how it keeps these kind of stuff going, right? You get all these kind of scenario games, and you come back and you still watch, and then you give us your money. Haha, no, I'm kidding. Anyway, let's continue on. Here we did the normal thing. We got the egg safely. The moss went up there, it died safely, and the spawns have changed. And luckily we got pretty good RNG here. Like, we got another maw and we got a card up here, and then here we dealt with stuff here. Here I'm not sure if you decided to just jump in face first and hope it worked out.
I was confident in my spot umbrella.
That wasn't going to come into play. Their Mick dies to nothing. Classic game desync.
Yeah, the desync missile got on.
Must have been a missile, sorry. Usual.
Yeah, it was pretty much a missile. It was a desync one. We got a lot of moss here. Okay, I believe this is where you.
I think
there was a question about how to
that's what ABC
deal with both
about.
moss. How do you decide which one you throw? It's pretty much, you can tell usually based on the positioning and what your teammates are going to do. General rule of thumb is target your own maw. It's kind of like the same argument with like a fly fish spawns and which basket you go for, right? This really comes down to your team synergy and what you do. In terms of the fly fish basket question, like what we go for, you pretty much everyone that, like, you guys that play with me know pretty much I always target the right basket, so that keeps that pretty consistent. Like, but it doesn't really stop me from like saying like, okay, you stand on this side and you're gonna bomb your side of the basket, which is also why I led to that stupid clip of us bombing the 4 of the right basket. I still don't know what happened, but but the bottom line is you have to kind of find a consistent method in terms of like what you're going to do when you deal with threats. Most people usually adhere to, they'll stand on one side and this is the side I'm going to bomb the fly fish on. I think that's usually what the consensus is. For those of you that play with me, usually I try to adhere to that too, so there's no guesswork. But as you can see, we're flexible enough to see, okay, this guy's going to bomb this. Okay, I'll just take care of it and do the other one. I'll adjust. So all of us have to kind of do that.
Dusty, can you go about 15 seconds back? I'm trying to reform my thought process. Let me see. Can you pause right now?
I was going to say that, like, what I do,
let me
I see two moths...
Let me see what Kills is doing. Right
okay,
now...
sorry, Mick. What is your thinking? What are we saying? One at a time. Yeah,
sorry?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh no, sorry. Was it Spox that said that?
I was trying to say.
What were you saying?
If I see 2 moths, I assume that someone is going to bomb the one that comes out first, so I get the second one. That's basically what I do every time.
Right. So. Hey, didn't you see the power eggs on Keels? I believe Keels, right, just from concluding about the direction of the power eggs, Keels recently thrown the spot bomb at that fly fish, and Keels is currently refilling ink right now. So that's kind of what happens, like really close. Making Dusty is on the other side, so keep playing right now.
Okay, I think so just to recap, the question is how to decide which maw you're bombing.
It's observing. Sometimes I observe kind of like what are my teammates doing. Sometimes if they're kind of like busy like using their weapons or weapons or sub weapons, you could kind of get a general idea if if someone's refilling
Yeah.
their ink or not, ready for the
Yeah,
moss.
usually I will only bomb a mouse that follows me, unless if I see a teammate is busy doing something else. In that case, I can also bomb another mouse.
Pretty much. So, like I said at the beginning, you're pretty much targeting your
awareness.
own moss as a general rule of thumb. And usually based on your teammates' positions, you can usually get a good feel for who's going to target what. Like this comes after a while with like experience. You just kind of know who's going to bomb what. It's hard. These kind of scenarios are not very common. And this kind of comes to...
Kind of like
this really comes down to
subconsciousness.
instinct. That's all I can really say. Once you build enough team synergy, you just kind of get a feel for, okay, I know this guy's going to take care of it, and you'll kind of see it play out here. So I'm going to let the video play out. You can kind of see what I mean by that. So here we see the moss. Okay, we see the 2 moss. So we see that. So there you already saw that someone was taking care of the right one. So that's why you looked at it, and then you suddenly looked to the left. So you already knew that. You saw that.
That's pretty much what I do.
It looks like Keels was like ready to throw it, so I was like, well, it looks like Keels got it. I'll just go take care of the left one. And
yeah, so at the end of the day, it's an instinct thing. You just kind of know who's going to do what. Like our synergy is already there to that point. And for the rest of us, I think the moral of the story is sometimes you have to put some faith in your teammates, especially when it comes to overfishing. It's a very different mentality from freelance where you're trying to survive and do everything in your power to make sure you just meet quota. Compared to, say, in overfishing, sometimes you need to put some trust in the group that you are playing with and trust that they'll do their job and put faith in that. I think that's one of the biggest things that people don't realize, especially when it comes to like what the people I play with. I put a lot of faith in like people that will be able to perform their job. And if something is missing, it will show very obvious, and they'll immediately know, okay, this is what we got to work on. And that's pretty much how it is. You may not realize that, but this is how I've always functioned. I always put a lot of faith in my people. And at the end, it's like a matter of, okay, if there's something needs to be addressed, is it worth addressing? Or are they just kind of playing to play? I have to evaluate a lot of these kind of situations, especially like when I'm trying to, I don't want to say lead because that's not really the right word. It's more about okay, the betterment of the group. Then many times only if it's like super apparent that needs to be addressed, then it's like, okay, do they want to hear it? That's the other thing you have to ask yourself. Are they actually looking to just play, or are they actually looking for advice? And this is something you have to really balance out and ask yourself really honestly. And this over time with your teams that you form will come to light about what you're really looking for. Are you looking to really get every aggressive feedback to tell you, okay, this is what you should have done, X, Y, Z, perfect, 100%. Some people just want to pick it up and just play the game at a more higher level. You really have to assess and know what people want. This is not easy. And over time, those intentions get revealed the more you spend with it. So ultimately, the bottom line is be very careful with amount of feedback you're giving, and especially if you're trying to take charge, you have to find the right connections. And you found out that people ultimately doesn't work out, seek out new connections. It's out there. People are willing to look out, but at the end, you have to kind of make a conscious decision. Okay, am I going to cooperate, or am I just going to find someone else? This is something you have to really come to terms with. This is not easy, and this is ultimately what drives a lot of teams ultimately's downfall is because of that. Is because the goals change, their interests wanes, the goals weren't aligned, people get into arguments, and then people just move on. Everyone makes sacrifices to make it work. This is a team game. Like I said from the beginning, this is a 4-player game that people put aside their differences to make things work. You have to come to terms with that. If you cannot, then it's going to hurt you in the long run. It's going to feel like if your goals are not the same, it's going to hurt you. So you have to be very honest with what you really are looking for, and let it know straight up. Sometimes if you know it straight up, the risk is they just want to play with you, right? Because the goals don't line. It's better to find that out early. But the truth is, psychologically, as human beings, we like to delay the bad news. We just want to play the game. We rather just spend the time we have. But some people just rather not hear it. They just rather move on immediately. But to each their own. This is kind of a psychological study. I'm not going to cover too much in this video because it's kind of conflict of interest at this point. But it's something to really consider at the end of the day. Be very careful with how you give feedback, especially if to the people if they want to hear it or if they don't want to hear it. This is the final thing, the really big takeaway out of everything I've said today. be very cautious about that. This is why the only reason why I'm very hesitant to give these kind of feedback is because I want to make sure there was enough interest generated about it before it occurred. Because I want to make sure this is something you guys are really looking for. You want to like look for this kind of betterment. You want this kind of feedback. Then I feel like, okay, there's this kind of understanding that you want this to happen. Then we're fortunate enough to like make this happen. Like I said, there's a lot of production work that goes into the back end to make this happen. Like we've all made personal sacrifices even to make it work today and everything. And like I said this 2 days ago, I'm very appreciative for everyone that has tuned in, or even you guys sitting in the call today, listening to my ramble. And like, so maybe there's some things that maybe you'll disagree with, you agree with. Some things that maybe you're like, oh, this guy's nonsense. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And I understand, like maybe some things like that. So, but I said, at the end of the day, this is just my perspective, and it's my biased perspective. I always encourage people to like try to get someone else to sit down, do the same thing, and see what it's like at the end of the day. So ultimately, something to really, really consider when it comes to give feedback. You don't want to get to the point where you're just constantly telling them, oh, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. Like, no one wants to hear that. At the end, focus on, okay, what do I really want to get out of it? And is this something I can A, patch up, or B, I really need to like sit down and do it? Over time, you will find the truth very, very quickly in terms of that. You have to kind of be really honest, and then you have to try to find a chemistry like that.
Someone is
That's the only
asking they'd like that played over one more time so that they can watch Keels' position.
Oh, sure. So yeah, I got off on a very big tangent here. So let's go back and focus on the video now. So I know I got off on a lot of ramble stuff in terms of like logistics there. Let's take a step back.
Right around here.
Okay, so one more time.
Was my I hope my camera wasn't too confusing. I often like to observe. It doesn't matter if there's a split, if there's like a split second difference between it. That's still a trust factor. There's still a trust factor on like, should I double on this? And there's the part about if you bomb the one that's the faster one, what about the one on the left? You still have to deal with the trust either way.
Yes, that is correct. So at the end, that's pretty much what it comes down to. Is like sometimes you have to put trust in your teammates. Like that's pretty much what I do. You guys probably don't even like realize that, but I'm formally saying that you won't realize how much trust I put into you guys when it comes to execution. I just don't even really talk about it. I just let it play out. That's probably also why I die a lot. And sometimes I just think these will die, and then I just go in and they don't die. This is probably another reason why you see me die kind of more often than not. Is because sometimes I put too much trust.
Hey, Dusty, if I see you die, I'm here like, dang, there could be something that could help you stay alive. It does.
Oh yeah, I'm very well aware there are things that I could be doing instead that makes me survive way more. But to be honest, part of the reason why I die a lot is because I take a lot of stupid risks, and I will even acknowledge this to say that straight up. And personally for me, I just enjoy the game more that way. I'd rather be like more in the fray and just like be on the edge of trying to do stuff. That's just how I enjoy it. I like to be on the edge like that. It's not a good freelance habit, I understand, because that gets me killed and that I get owned that way. But when I play squads like that, like it helps me like flourish in that environment. So when I get some stupid deaths like that kind of scenario occurring, that's probably why. And Mina, do you happen to have that clip that with the fog when you were hosting?
It's on your Twitter. Go look it up yourself. But
you know what I'm talking about, right? It's like risks like that I can take, that I can get away with, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. I don't even care. I'm just going to go in. If I die, I die. But it's the situations like that is all I'm trying to say. Just pull it up. You'll see. Please pull it up.
It's silly, but this is the part where I'm like, bruh, I'll risk my life so you could deal with your stuff.
Yeah, please pull it up. This is actually worth sharing for the for the
All
team.
right, here's
For the
the
class.
link, you nerd.
Okay, at the end of the day, while you're pulling that up, I just want to disclose the fact this is only personally for me and how it works out with our chemistry in our group. This is just personally how it worked out. Okay, for everyone else, maybe that might not be the best way, but like I said, you guys have to figure it out and ask yourself, okay, this is just how the style I'm going to approach the game. At the end of the day, this is a team effort. Your chemistry has to mesh up to perform it to a certain degree. And there's going to be a lot of overlacing and adjustments you make depending on who you play with. Like, for example, I know Spock tends to play very safe. And he knows I play very aggressive. So ironically, that works out very well. Now, the problem is if you have two people, like Spock and some other, I don't know, it's like some other player that hangs out really far in the back, then that chemistry is bad because then we have two people that are super surviving, but we have no egg scanning run. So at the end of the day, there is some kind of adjustments people do make at the end. People do have preferences in play style that ends up working better or for the worst. And people have to kind of make sacrifices to make it all work out. But that's kind of the last thing to really take away from it is the team chemistry. Do you make the adjustments or will your team make it for the betterment of it? And for some reason, our group like just has this really weird synergy where I can get away with these things that just ends up being more. This is the play style that I've heard. That's just how I've done it. It's like I just go in and I just die and I just get the egg. Okay, memes aside, please pull up that tweet. I want to just kind of make it like highlight what I mean.
Pull it up before.
No, you're pulling it up.
I ask you right now.
No, please pull it up. No, please have you pull it up.
It's already up. No, the audio won't be.
We don't need audio.
Hold on, fine. I'll pull it up. I thought you will be opening it, unless I can't.
It's because I have to switch windows and whatnot. It's a little bit weird. So you can just literally open a tab there. It'd be easier.
This dumb thing right here.
Okay, yeah, this is just a really stupid example, but I hope it highlights what I mean by egg greed.
That's something I would pretty much never do personally, so...
Yeah, don't do this if you're in freelance, by the way. But you can see here, this is something I personally did. I was just jumping out to get the eggs. But as you can see there, because I was not the host has this weird targeting advantage where it only targets the host first. So I was able to kind of just go in and grab the egg and just get away with it. And you can see all the co-ops didn't even bother turning around to shoot me.
It'll most likely not work with everyone, but it just works with us because how stubborn Dusty is.
Look, I'm just saying, you gotta get all the eggs, okay?
I'm also stubborn about the lessons too, and I will fight the lessons for that darn egg. It's right there. It's literally right there.
Look, I don't know what gave you the impulse to jump down, but it ended up working out, okay? Don't even question it. I think it ultimately just played out to our advantage there.
Someone in chat is asking if you can full screen that clip.
Sure. Why
don't you play it again one more time for the people after you pull it?
It worked out for us. We got the 70. We got the sub 70. Rejoice.
Look, I know some people didn't want it to work out because they want the 69 instead, okay? Keels.
No! That's only
calling you out here. I know you would want that instead.
No one, shut it. Why are you the one to comment every time that happens?
It's not true.
Look, I'm just saying you wouldn't want that to work out just because you want the memes.
All right.
Okay, I'm just poking fun at you there. You know that. Anyway,
explain that. I don't think there was anything else from that trip because everything. Just
not really.
Everything just we're just trying to grab every last single one that's as fast as possible. I just did the inkjet jump just for one egg, but at least I got in there.
Just 183 casual.
It seems that we're more or less done here, right?
Yeah, pretty much. This will be the last cup I review, and for the most part, I know.
I'm gonna stop for now. And
yeah, that's fine.
See you guys later.
And yeah, we're pretty much ready to wrap up. So this will be pretty much the last session for the time being until further notice. I think there's been talk about the overfishing server. I'm not sure when that's going to occur yet, but I'm pretty sure one way or another you guys will end up finding out regardless. So once that's ready to go, be on the lookout for that, and we will take it from there. Some of you people have actually messaged me afterwards with like feedback and comments about like some things you wanted to talk about. Feel free to drop on that if you feel like there's something you wanted to bring up and whatnot. Other than that, once that overfishing server gets going, you will find out, and that's pretty much it. I feel like I've said pretty much the majority of the stuff I want to kind of lay it out on my super biased opinion, like just because it's my opinion and it's just kind of a place. And I'm glad that most of you were able to tune in to kind of check this out regardless. And I hope kind of just looking at these kind of gameplay analysis, it gives you an idea kind of like what is going through my head as I'm playing this. To a very much more deeper degree than like how it shows on the surface. There's a lot that goes into consideration in the long term for the betterment of the play. Obviously, this is personally how I operate. For some others, maybe they just kind of play the game and they don't even think about it. Maybe just want to call like, okay, this is what works here. We're just going to kind of pick it up and do it. Sure, you may approach it that way. But keep in mind, the most important thing is if you're looking to forward your gameplay, review your clips, and just be a better teacher. That's pretty much it.
I think,
does anyone have any final questions to wrap up here? Live questions for me that they're dying to ask.
I think it's also cool to watch other people's stream, like as I mean everyone here is watching like other players' point of view, but it's kind of it's like if you feel comfortable looking at other players' gameplay, then go for it too. If you don't have time to analyze your own gameplay. Obviously, I would prefer if you have the time to do both, but either of those options are really nice.
But Jerry, we found the crux of the problem. People don't want to put in the time to actually do that. If you have time to sit down and play Salmon, you have time to sit down and analyze your gameplay. Sometimes you have to put in the work and ask yourself if you're wanting to really improve. That's the problem here.
Just keep
okay,
going.
regarding watching someone else's stream, though, I will acknowledge the fact that that is another way for you to kind of get a different angle of like, okay, what are they doing that I could pick up on? That is a good way to start, but ultimately, you are your best teacher. Like you obviously you can start somewhere and you just kind of jump in, but pretty much everyone has like done professional enough to know like, okay, this is what I'm looking for and this is kind of what it is. Even in freelance, you go in there, you're kind of like, okay, I suck at this. Like I've done something wrong here and there. Like these are moments you can always be learning from. Like at the end of the day, like you watch someone else, yeah, you know they have their weaknesses, but at the end of the day, it's you. Like what do you bring to the table? In overfishing, you have to be able to bring something to the table for the group. If you are not able to offer that because your technical limitations is holding you back, that's just not going to, you're hurting your group in the long run. So ultimately, you have to be very honest with yourself. Like, okay, this is something I really want to work on. I need help with. I'm going to sit down and get better about it and really learn something about it. That way, that's the only way it works. Otherwise, your group won't take off. Like, if everyone's just passively kind of playing and hope it connects together, that's not going to happen. I can tell you straight up, that's not going to happen. Like the shifts you saw today and on Thursday, these were many hours of playing together. I wouldn't necessarily say sit down and analyze because this is the first time we're actually sitting down and doing something like this. This is the first and foremost time we have ever done this. But these things don't magically happen overnight. These things take time to develop and you have to put in the effort. But I promise you, if you put it in and you're very serious about it, you will see the payoff. I hope this is that kind of inspiration that it puts to the rest of you guys looking to better your gameplay. Any questions for me? Any questions? Come bring them all forward to me. Give me some questions.
Are you really ready to step up the plate? unless everyone actually answered. Unless we.
Well, to be honest, right now, here's the thing. Like right now, just due to my personal life circumstances and time schedule, I just cannot commit another like much time to be doing these analysis on a weekly basis or every other bi-weekly basis.
Sadly.
It's just due to personal issues. Yeah. Like I cannot do that.
Yeah, we understand.
So I really encourage people. Like you saw, like what I've laid out for you. Like the bar is set. You guys kind of know that, and it's just a matter of who is willing to like really step up. I want to do that. And like at the end of the day, the overfishing server in the works is a prime example of that. There are people that are willing to do that. It's a cooperative effort at the end.
We're working
like
on
these
that.
are just my skill set that I'm bringing to the table that I'm able to do. In terms of doing this on a regular basis, probably not able to. That's the issue here. sometimes you just kind of want to pick up and just play the game. Like, I understand. When we have a chance to do that, you see that. So, but hopefully it's about managing your time well and how to make the most of it. That's pretty much like kind of a life hack as well that you should also really, is a life skill that's really difficult to balance, and you have to like ask yourself. So really, at the end of the day, you just really got to sit down and just put in the work. That's really what it comes down to. Some people just don't want to do that, and it shows. That's pretty much what it is. Like, naturally, people that don't work hard will play with people that don't work hard at the same time. They're not going to question it. They just want to play the game. People that want to put in the effort, they'll put in the effort, and they'll gravitate towards the people that do the same. That's not any different. I mean, am I spouting nonsense here, or is it pretty much like that's pretty much it?
There, sometimes a little bit of effort can go a long way.
So these things you just gotta ask yourself, like, okay, I'm going to put in the time and put in the practice. I shouldn't even call it practice, because we all know I don't like to really use that term. Everything is live execution. If you're practicing, you're doing that in the ice show, or you're like reading a textbook or a forum post about like strategies. But on the battlefield, it's all live performance. So really remember that. Everything is in the moment, what you're going to do for the betterment of your team. Can you figure out your team chemistry, what you're going to do? Can you step up to the plate? Okay? And finally, keep pushing on. Okay, you have to find the right chemistry. At some point, you're going to find that. Like, this is the group for us that really worked out, and I really hope in the long term we can keep that relationship going, and for the enjoyment of even just for us. And then we branch out and try to pass that on along the way. Yeah, that's pretty much all. Like, all I got. Any other comments, questions?
I do hope all these talk does inspire people to work hard, but it's obviously not done easy. Sometimes it goes over, sometimes it takes probably a long time, and sometimes things just click. It'll happen though.
You just need to get 2 high tides on Polaris with Seeking and Mothership.
Oh boy.
Okay, I mean that. Okay, you know what I'm coming from. You know where I'm coming from.
Polaris, let's go.
Exactly. You want 200? There you go. In fact, you'll get 220 like that. Okay. Anyway, memes aside, I hope you guys found this informative. What do you say here? Like, comment, subscribe.
No, not
the usual memes.
Stuff.
What do you do on Twitch instead? You say, follow me for more content. What do you say?
Yeah.
Sometimes if I do have time to play Salmon, I like to just stream it so I can look back over it anytime. That's basically much it. I just keeping that constant effort to just let it play, and I don't really check chat often when that happens. So I'll most likely not be able to answer like questions about what I do. It's just not the good time. But
as you probably noticed, when I was doing a lot of these commentations, it's pretty much like almost impossible to be focusing on too much stuff going on at once, especially like as chat, they're kind of doing their own thing, and then we have people like here kind of like monitoring it. That's pretty much how it is. It's like a team effort. At the end of the day, if you're even following your own stream and you're doing your own thing, it's a really tough thing to balance, like reading chat and playing. Like, I don't even know how you do it. Like, people like mid-wave while playing, they look at chat, and then it's like they're taking their focus off the game. I don't know how you people do it. It's like you're not even really playing the game at that point.
It's crazy.
So it's a difficult balance to do. Bless the people that can do that. But I also kind of worry about like where the priorities are in terms of like, are they really focusing on the game, or are they actually just kind of like they're rather prefer having chat. So this is something they have to come to terms with at the end of the day.
If it suits them, I don't see harm. It could be
not
just
a bad,
personal
like I said,
preference.
at the end of the day, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they're not reading chat, but you have to find a balance when to do it. Like, I would say like after every game, maybe it's a good thing, but the problem is every 5-6 minutes before you can even look at chat. It might discourage like interaction that way. But this is something you have to kind of come to terms with and figure it out, because at the end you have to kind of ask yourself what you're really trying to get out of like streaming your gameplay. You really have to like take a step back and ask yourself, okay, what am I really doing? Are you doing it for chat interaction, or are you actually doing it to record your gameplay? Maybe it might be both. There's some overlap. Maybe you're trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Like, sure, we can all do that, but at the end, you have to be really honest what you're really trying to look for. That's all I can really say.
Right.
Yeah. Any
like
other
we're wrapping
final
up then.
questions? If not, then I wish you guys the best of luck. How many of you guys want to play Salmon?
No, I'm tired after that 4-hour grind. I'm gonna go eat dinner right now. But what is it? I believe the overfishing server is going to be a huge project, and obviously it's probably not going to be done so quickly, as we're trying our best to look through and verify and talk over the information that we're trying to share. It's way tougher than I expected for sure. But I hope everyone look forward to it when we do launch it publicly.
Yeah, keep in mind, like I said, like these kind of productions, they're not easy to put together. Like just to make these 2 days happen, Thursday and Saturday, there was a lot of effort that goes to put these together. It's not these things. Don't take it for granted. Like you come on Twitch and you kind of just go to a website, you go like, oh, I'm going to check Mina out and just check out Salmon Run, right? These productions are not easy to form. These are collective group efforts that come together because there was an interest and people want to make it happen. So I can't thank, first off, I have to thank my team members first off, and you guys for tuning in, because without you guys, this wouldn't have even been possible. Like this wouldn't have even occurred. Well, we just kind of be playing our Salmon Run and just kind of doing our thing. So the fact that you guys make it possible for this to happen, you have to give yourself a very big pat in the back. So first off, thank you from the bottom of my heart for even just being in Discord call, being in chat, being here, just listening to my nonsense or even advice. I don't know. However you want to interpret it, about this whole like overview of overfishing. Without you guys, this would not be possible. Like it may look like it's basically a one-man show with me and Mina, because basically we're putting our foot in the front. It may seem that way, but I promise you, there's a lot of work that goes to make this work. I want to really thank every one of you, but personally, especially my team, for still being together since the eon days of Salmon Run. And cheers to many more years to come to look forward.
It's always nice to look back on how we progress.
And I will hope to see you on the battlefield, and I hopefully you were able to take away some of the stuff that we have shared today, and keep at it.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Thank you for stream.
Wait, is anyone else actually streaming Salmon, or is Inkstorm still happening? Yeah, Inkstorm is happening.
I don't even know there was a tournament or like something happening.
What? It's like the revival. I'm surprised.
Okay, just tell Spots to hit the stream button and just go host them.
Hurry up. All right.
I'm gonna go like, hey, you're streaming now. We're gonna throw these 50 viewers onto you. Enjoy.
All right. Take care now.
Yeah.